My name is Laura, and I'm a nurse. After another long day at work, I head home. I'm a little late, like usual. I'm home. Welcome back, I said. When I got home, my daughter Meg was there to greet me. It must be hard for a third grader to wait at home alone every day. I always feel bad for her, but I guess other nurses might envy me, since I work at the local hospital that doesn't have any night shifts. Where's your dad today? I asked. He's not home yet, Meg answered. I feel like I haven't seen him in a long time. Oh, I see. My husband, Stan, works a lot and doesn't come home much. I can't even remember the last time he spent time with us, like eating together or helping around the house. Well, he does spend time with his family. On his days off, he goes to his mom's house to help with things like gardening and cleaning, and he has dinner with her. Stan never shows up for Meg's soccer practices or spelling bee contests, but he always makes time for his mom. This has caused a lot of tension between Stan and me. I'm sorry, honey, I'm sorry you feel lonely all the time, I said. It's okay, you come home every day, Mom, so that's enough, Meg said. Oh, Meg, I hugged her tightly. If we were a normal family, we would spend time together and be happy, no matter how much I apologized. I knew it wouldn't change things. I kept wondering how things got so bad. Then, one day, Stan came home at a normal time, which was very rare, but by then, both Meg and I didn't feel as close to him, and we didn't talk much. We ate dinner quietly, and then Stan suddenly said, "Hey, why don't we go to Hawaii for the holidays?" What? I was shocked. Stan was suggesting a family trip? What was going on? We haven't traveled as a family in a while, he said. I thought it would be a good way to celebrate my mom's 60th birthday, and it could be a nice chance for us to all be together. Once again, he was thinking about his mom. I was frustrated, but when Meg heard about Hawaii, she got excited. We can go to Hawaii. I really want to go, she said. Meg was so happy. It was her first time going to Hawaii, so I understood her excitement, but I wasn't sure I could enjoy a family trip after everything that's happened, especially with my mother-in-law, Kate, there. If the trip was really to celebrate Kate's birthday, Stan should have told me about it years ago, but since Meg wanted to go, I didn't think I could say no. Alright, I guess we can go. It's been a while since we've all been together as a family, so why not, I said. On the day of the trip, Stan and I both had to work, so we planned to meet at the airport. My workday was very busy, and it went longer than expected. I was running late. After work, I rushed to the airport with Meg. We took the bus and finally arrived, but something unexpected happened. They're not here, I said. Stan and Kate weren't at the airport. I looked around, but I couldn't find them anywhere. Where did they go? No one called me, so I tried calling both Stan and Kate. The number you have dialed is either not powered on right now or has no signal, the message said over and over. I was getting frustrated, so I went to ask the airline staff. One of the staff members asked, "Are you Miss Laura Martin?" Yes, I replied, confused. I didn't know how they knew my name, but they handed me a piece of paper. "I was asked to give this to you," the staff member said. I looked at the paper and was shocked by what it said. I couldn't wait any longer. "Stan and I are going on this trip without you. If you're not on time, we're leaving without you. Why don't you just stay here, Kate?" I whispered, shaking with anger. "What is this?" "Mom, what's wrong?" Meg asked, worried. "Oh, it's nothing. It looks like your dad and grandma went ahead without us," I said, trying to stay calm. "So, we can't go to Hawaii?" Meg asked, upset. We can catch up with them and get on another flight," I said, trying to sound positive, but honestly, we didn't have enough money for another ticket. What was I going to do? While I was trying to figure it out, an old man in front of me suddenly collapsed. Without thinking, I rushed over. After being a nurse for so many years, my body just reacted. "Are you okay?" I asked, checking his breathing, but it had stopped. Oh my God. I quickly turned him onto his side to clear his airway. I saw something blocking his breathing, probably vomit. I knew I had to act fast. "Please, someone call an ambulance," I shouted as I began to help. Soon, the ambulance arrived, and the man was taken to the emergency room. The man I helped at the airport woke up and asked, "Was it you who saved me?" "Yes, I did," I said. "You really saved my life, thank you so much. I thought I was going to die." He was feeling better now and could talk. It seemed like there were no major health issues, just the breathing problem that caused him to collapse. "I'm James, and I want to thank you properly," he said. "Oh, it's nothing, I just did what anyone would have done." "That's not true, you saved my life." "Thank you, but really, I didn't do anything special." "By the way, were you traveling somewhere?" he asked. "Yes, I was supposed to go to Hawaii with my daughter, but we missed the flight." "That's terrible, I feel bad for you." "No, it's not your fault," I said quickly, we were already running late. "It was my fault." I was feeling down, thinking we'd have to go home, when James said, "That's a shame, your daughter must have been really looking forward to it. Why not just buy another ticket?" "Well, I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but we don't have enough money for another flight." James looked at me, then said, "Okay, as a thank you, I'll buy the tickets for you and your daughter." "Wait, no, that's too much," I said, feeling surprised. "It's totally fine." He then called over a female staff member and borrowed a phone to make a quick call. After hanging up, he said, "Don't worry about it, I won't be able to feel at peace unless I thank you properly." As we were talking, the paper I had from Stan and Kate fell out of my pocket. I was still holding on to my anger, but we were lucky enough to get on another flight to Hawaii, thanks to James. To my surprise, he bought us business class tickets, which were very expensive. Meg and I enjoyed the flight so much. When we finally arrived in Hawaii, I started to think about where Stan and Kate would be staying, but I hadn't asked them before. At the airport, a man approached us. "Are you Laura and Meg?" he asked. "Yes, that's us, but..." "Nice to meet you." He handed me his business card. It had the name of a well-known company on it. "I heard about you from the chairman of our company." "The chairman? You mean the old man I helped?" I asked, shocked. "Yes, that's right. The man you helped at the airport is the chairman of our company." I couldn't believe it. I had no idea James was the chairman of such a big company. "Now, we'll take you to your hotel, as ordered by the chairman. Please enjoy your stay in Hawaii," he said, leading us to a black limousine. I had never been in a car like this before. "Wow, this is amazing," Meg said, excited to ride in a limousine for the first time. I checked my shoes to make sure they were clean before getting in. The view of Hawaii was beautiful, like an endless summer. I had doubts we'd even make it, but I was so glad we were there. Meg couldn't stop looking out the window. Soon, we arrived at a huge, luxurious hotel. But then I realized something important. "Oh no, I didn't book a room," I said quietly. "Don't worry," the man said, "we've already reserved a room for you on the top floor." "But I can't afford this," I said, feeling uncomfortable. "You don't need to pay, it's all been taken care of," he said. I was amazed. James had arranged all of this for us, and I had no idea how far he'd gone to make sure we were treated like VIPs. We entered the hotel and I was stunned by the room. It was huge, almost like a suite, with an incredible view of the ocean and the sunset. The hotel staff was there to help us with anything we needed. The food was also unbelievable, everything was fresh and luxurious. They even grilled the best steak right in front of us. It was the best meal I'd ever had. Later, Meg and I walked around the lobby, and we heard arguing voices coming from a corner. Meg and I saw a man and a woman arguing with the hotel staff. "Are they?" I asked. "Yes, it's my husband and my mother-in-law," I said. "Hey, what are you both doing here?" I called out to Stan and Kate. They turned and saw us. "What? Why are you both here?" Stan asked, surprised. "We came here as planned," I answered, "but you've done something horrible to us, even though you were the one who suggested this trip." "Well, that's..." Stan looked at Kate like he wanted to say something, but didn't know how. It's your fault for being late, right?" Kate said dismissively. "I'm sorry for that, but you didn't need to say that. We should have just stayed home," Stan muttered. Kate didn't seem sorry at all. I couldn't forgive them for what they had done. "By the way, why are you two arguing with the hotel staff?" I asked. "When I tried to check in, they told me to leave," Stan said angrily. "I don't understand," I said, turning to the staff. The hotel staff explained. "I heard that these people left our valued guests behind. That's unforgivable. I was told not to let them stay here." "Oh, I get it now," I said. James had a lot of influence with the hotel. As chairman of a big company, he was someone you definitely didn't want to upset. Stan looked even angrier. What does he mean? Well, it's a long story, but it means he can't forgive you both for leaving Meg and me behind, I said. Stan and Kate looked confused. How would someone at this hotel know about that? Stan asked. Well, I understand why you're asking that, but after hearing what happened, I'm not surprised. Honestly, I think you both deserve it, I replied. I pulled out a business card. This is the card from the man who helped me at the airport. Stan took the card with shaking hands. This is a business card from one of our major clients. Both Stan and Kate went pale as they realized the significance. You mean you know the chairman of this company? Stan asked. Of course I do. I saved him at the airport when he collapsed. That's why he booked our flight to Hawaii and even reserved the hotel room for us, I explained. What? Kate gasped, trembling. What's wrong, Mom? Stan asked, concerned. He's in the same gym club as me. I see him sometimes, but everyone looks up to him, Kate stammered. What a strange coincidence, I said, agreeing with Stan. It felt like the world was much smaller than I realized. I had no idea that Kate knew the chairman, but before I heard it from her, I already knew the truth, because James had told me himself. When I got the new ticket at the airport, James had picked up the paper that had fallen out of my pocket. He looked at me, surprised. Laura, what is this? That, I hesitated. Well, we were left behind by my mother-in-law and husband, I admitted. That's horrible, James said, and unforgivable. But this name? I've seen it somewhere before, James said, looking at the paper. Is your mother-in-law's last name Martin? He asked. Yes, her name is Kate Martin, I answered. What, you know my mother-in-law? I was shocked. Of course I do. She's a member of the gym I go to, James said. She doesn't seem like the type of person who would do something like that, and this is how it happened, I said. I smiled, thinking about it. It's tough, isn't it? You two were going on a trip together, but now it looks like we'll be on our own. I'm going to enjoy the trip with Meg, I added. Kate, why don't you just camp out somewhere here and enjoy the Hawaiian night without a roof over your head? Oh wait, that's terrible, I said sarcastically. You're the rudest person ever, Stan and Kate screamed at me. I turned my back on them, laughing. They're so ridiculous. They throw hurtful words at me, but when I throw them back, they call me rude. Let's go, I said to Meg. Yeah, Meg agreed, taking my hand. As we walked away, I could still hear the argument behind us. Anyway, get out of here. We don't have rooms for you, the hotel staff told Stan and Kate, not backing down. Eventually, Stan and Kate were forced to leave the hotel, and Meg and I enjoyed our trip to Hawaii on our own. With Meg's love for Stan almost gone, we didn't need to care about him anymore. I never expected such a wonderful trip as a reward for helping that old man, but I was so grateful. We truly wanted to thank James for everything he had done for us. The trip ended, and we returned home safely. It was an amazing, refreshing experience, and Meg seemed really happy with it. But what happened to Stan and Kate, who were kicked out of the hotel? It seems that things got much worse for them after they left Hawaii. When Stan came home, he looked exhausted. It turned out that the chairman's orders had been shared with all the hotels in Hawaii. Stan and Kate had to camp out in the wild. They got exactly what the paper said would happen. Stan faced even more trouble when his boss called him into the office and told him that the contract with James's company was about to be cancelled. Kate wasn't treated well by the members of her gym club either. They turned cold toward her, and she ended up leaving the club. The gym was her only hobby, but this whole incident scared her so much that she stopped working out and now spends most of her time watching TV. Stan and I realized our marriage was beyond saving, and we decided to divorce. Meg stayed with me, and I didn't ask for alimony or child support. My income wasn't much different from Stan's, and I was fine supporting Meg on my own. I decided I would never see my mother-in-law again. Looking back, this whole situation felt strange. By accidentally being late at the airport, I ended up helping the chairman of a big company, who happened to be someone Kate knew, and because of him, I got to experience one of the best trips to Hawaii. Maybe it was fate. My relationship with Stan never worked, except for Meg. Our different work schedules caused some of the problems, but I believe things would have ended this way even if I had stayed a housewife. Stan would have always put Kate before us. I have no regrets now. I have the most adorable and precious daughter in the world. I don't need anyone else.
I stared at the iced tea dripping down my silk blouse, watching the amber liquid seep into the fabric like a growing bloodstain. The silence in the dining room was absolute, broken only by the soft plink of ice cubes hitting the hardwood floor. My name is Ruby, and this was the moment my mother-in-law decided to destroy my marriage. Oh dear, Linda said, her voice dripping with false concern. My hand must have slipped. She placed the empty pitcher on the table with deliberate care, her manicured fingers lingering on the crystal handle. I could feel every eye in the room on me. Jake's bewildered stare, Melanie's poorly concealed smirk, even little Emily's wide-eyed shock from her booster seat. The Sunday roast lay forgotten, steam still rising from the perfectly arranged plates. Let me help you clean up. Jake started to rise, but Linda's hand shot out, gripping his wrist. Actually, before anyone moves, I have something that needs addressing. She reached into her designer handbag, pulling out a thick manila envelope. These arrived yesterday, and I think now is the perfect time to discuss them. My stomach clenched as she slid the envelope across the table, leaving it just out of reach of the spreading tea puddle. I didn't need to open it to know what it contained. The familiar legal letterhead was visible through the paper. Divorce papers, Linda announced to the room, as if introducing the next course. Already filled out. All Jake needs to do is sign. I turned to my husband, searching his face for any sign of surprise, any hint that this was as much of an ambush for him as it was for me. But Jake wouldn't meet my eyes, suddenly fascinated by his untouched mashed potatoes. You knew about this? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Ruby, honey, Linda cut in before Jake could respond. Let's not make this more dramatic than it needs to be. We all know this marriage isn't working. Jake needs someone who understands family values, someone who can support his dreams instead of. She gestured vaguely at my tea-soaked appearance. Whatever this is. Melanie snorted into her wine glass. At least you didn't ruin one of your good outfits, Rubes. This one was clearly from the clearance rack. I stood up slowly, feeling the cold liquid running down my spine. Jake, I said quietly. Look at me. He raised his head finally, and what I saw in his eyes told me everything. This wasn't a sudden decision. This wasn't even his mother's idea, not entirely. This was premeditated, calculated, and I'd been too blind to see it coming. 8 years, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. 8 years of marriage, and you let your mother dump iced tea on me before serving divorce papers. It's not like that, he started, but I was already moving. I picked up my own glass of wine, a full-bodied red that Linda had been saving for a special occasion, and walked around the table with measured steps. Linda's smug expression faltered slightly as I approached. You're right about one thing, I said, standing over her. This marriage isn't working. I tipped the glass, watching the red wine cascade over her perfectly coiffed hair, down her expensive white blouse. But you're wrong about who needs to understand family values. Emily giggled from her seat, quickly stifled by Melanie's sharp shush. I turned on my heel and walked toward the door, pausing only to grab my car keys from the entry table. Behind me, I could hear Linda's outraged sputtering and Jake's weak attempts to calm her down. Ruby, wait, Jake called after me. I didn't wait. I didn't look back. But I made a promise to myself as I stepped into the evening air. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The hotel room key card trembled in my hand as memories of our first date flooded back. Jake had worn that ridiculous blue tie with cartoon ducks on it, claiming it was his lucky charm. I'd found it endearing then, his nervous energy, his grand dreams of starting his own business empire. Now, 8 years later, that same tie hung in our closet, pristine and unworn, while my credit cards groaned under the weight of his failed ventures. My phone buzzed. Another message from Jake. Please come home. We can talk about this. I tossed the phone onto the bed and started pacing, the same bed where I'd spent the last 3 hours scrolling through our joint bank accounts, watching our life together dissolve into a series of suspicious transactions and unexplained withdrawals. A knock at the door made me freeze. Ruby, Melanie's voice. I know you're in there. I considered ignoring her, but curiosity won out. When I opened the door, she pushed past me, reeking of expensive perfume and desperation. You're making a huge mistake, she said, dropping onto the room's single chair. Jake's a mess. Mom's furious. This isn't how family handles things. Family? I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Is that what we're calling it now? Don't be dramatic. So Mom got a little carried away with the tea thing. But you had to know this was coming. What Jake needs, I cut in, is to grow a spine. What he doesn't need is another enabler making excuses for his failures. Melanie's face hardened. At least he tries. All you do is judge him from your corporate ivory tower while he what? Burns through our savings? Takes out loans we can't afford? Tell me, Melanie, how many of his sure thing investments have you backed? She shifted uncomfortably. That's different. I believe in his vision. His vision? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. You mean like the cryptocurrency mining operation that nearly burned down our garage? Or maybe the artisanal pickle business that lasted exactly 2 weeks? You never supported him properly, she snapped. If you just what? Keep working 60-hour weeks so he can chase pipe dreams with Mommy's approval? I'm done being the family ATM. Melanie stood, smoothing her designer dress. Mom was right about you. You never deserved Jake. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing about him. I moved to open the door. Oh, and Melanie? That Cartier bracelet you're wearing? The one Jake gave you for your birthday? I paid for that too. She flushed, her hand automatically covering the bracelet. He said a lot of things. Now get out. After she left, I sat down at the small desk and opened my laptop. The cursor blinked accusingly as I logged into our joint accounts again. That's when I noticed something odd. A series of regular transfers to an account I didn't recognize, starting exactly 2 months after our wedding. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I dug deeper. Each transfer was labeled business investment, but the receiving account. I felt my stomach drop as I recognized Linda's bank. The amounts weren't huge, but over 8 years, they added up to nearly 6 figures. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Linda. I hope you're proud of yourself. Jake's devastated. Emily keeps asking where her Aunt Ruby is. If you had any decency, you'd sign those papers quietly and leave us in peace. I stared at the message, then back at the screen showing the transfer history. A cold clarity settled over me. They thought they had me cornered, humiliated, defeated. They expected me to slink away, sign their papers, vanish from their lives. Instead, I opened a new document and started typing. Every transaction, every failed business venture, every manipulative moment, I documented it all. Linda wanted peace. She was about to learn that peace came at a price, and I wasn't the one who would be paying it. The truth was a weapon, and I finally knew exactly where to aim it. The credit alert pinged on my phone while I was in a meeting with the company's board. My hands went numb as I stared at the notification. A loan approval for $50,000. A loan I never applied for. I excused myself, ignoring the concerned looks from my colleagues. In the hallway, I called the bank, my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. Yes, Mrs. Harrison, the loan was approved this morning. Your husband provided all the necessary documentation, including your power of attorney. Power of attorney. The words hit me like a physical blow. I remembered signing something last year, Jake insisting it was just a formality for his new business venture. It'll make things easier, he'd said, flashing that boyish smile that once made my heart flutter. My office phone was blinking when I returned, 3 messages from Linda. I deleted them without listening and opened my email instead. There it was, buried in my spam folder, a confirmation for a business registration. Harrison Family Ventures, LLC. Today's date. My name listed as guarantor. The knock on my office door made me jump. Ruby. It was my assistant, Sarah. There's someone here to see you. Says she's your niece. Emily stood in the reception area, her backpack clutched to her chest. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Aunt Ruby, she whispered. I didn't know where else to go. I ushered her into my office, closing the door on curious stares. Does your mom know you're here? She shook her head. Mom and Grandma are fighting. Uncle Jake came over and they're all yelling about money and papers and... She hiccuped. Mom said you stole from us. But that's not true, is it? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Melanie. I sent it to voicemail. Emily, sweetie, how did you get here? I took the bus. I remembered your building from when you showed me where you work. She pulled something from her backpack, a manila folder. I found this in Mom's room. She was crying over it last night. The folder contained bank statements, loan documents, and emails, dozens of them. Between Linda, Jake, and Melanie. Planning. Calculating. Using my income, my credit, my reputation to fund their schemes. "You're not the bad guy," Emily said quietly. "They are." My phone buzzed again. "Jake this time. Where's Emily?" "Mel's freaking out. Call me." I looked at Emily, then at the documents spread across my desk. 8 years of manipulation laid bare by an 8-year-old's curiosity. "Emily, I need to get you home." "Please don't make me go back," she whispered. "They're different when you're not there. Meaner. Grandma says terrible things, and Mom just agrees with everything, and Uncle Jake." My office phone rang. Linda's name flashed on the caller ID. I made a decision. "Sarah," I called out, "cancel my meetings for the rest of the day." I gathered the documents, tucking them into my briefcase. "Emily, how do you feel about ice cream?" Her face lit up, then fell. "But Mom says." "Your mom says a lot of things." I took her hand. "Let's go make some new rules." In the elevator, I texted Jake, "Emily's safe. With me. Don't worry. I'll document everything carefully. Just like you all did." The responses came rapid fire. Threats from Melanie. Guilt trips from Jake. Linda's message was just one line: "You've gone too far." I looked at Emily, who was humming softly, her small hand still in mine. "No, Linda. You all went too far. And now you're going to learn what happens when you push someone past their breaking point." "Aunt Ruby," Emily's voice was small. "Are you going to make them stop?" I squeezed her hand. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm going to make them stop." And I knew exactly where to begin. The folder in my briefcase wasn't just evidence of their betrayal. It was ammunition. They thought they were destroying me. Instead, they'd handed me everything I needed to tear their carefully constructed facade apart. Starting now. The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows as I sat across from Detective Morris. Emily's folder spread between us. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, but my voice remained steady. Identity theft, fraud, unauthorized loans. Morris flipped through the documents. "This is serious, Mrs. Harrison. But are you sure you want to pursue this? It's your husband we're talking about." "Ex-husband," I corrected. "And yes, I'm sure." My phone vibrated. Another message from Linda: "You're making a terrible mistake. Think about Emily." That's exactly what I was doing. The detective's office door opened. Sarah, my assistant, rushed in, clutching her tablet. "Ruby, you need to see this." She turned the screen toward me. Our company's internal homepage displayed a lengthy email from Jake to the entire board of directors. My stomach lurched as I read. Accusations of embezzlement, fabricated evidence of me stealing company funds, carefully doctored screenshots of transactions I'd never made. "They're calling an emergency board meeting," Sarah whispered. "Tomorrow morning." Detective Morris leaned forward. "This complicates things." My laugh sounded hollow, even to my own ears. "You think?" A knock on the door made us all turn. Melanie stood there, mascara streaked down her face. "Ruby, please." "Mom's taken Emily." The world tilted sideways. "What?" "She says she's protecting her from all of us. She won't tell me where they're going." Melanie's voice cracked. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know how far she'd go." Detective Morris was already on the phone, barking orders about an endangered minor. I gripped the edge of the desk, trying to stay upright as Melanie continued. "The loans, the business ventures, they weren't Jake's idea. Mom's been planning this for years. She wanted to ruin you, make you look unstable. But now Emily's gone and I can't." My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. A photo of Emily, sleeping in what looked like a car seat. Below it, 2 words: "Choose wisely." "Mrs. Harrison," Detective Morris said, "we need to move quickly. But if we pursue these charges, your mother-in-law could retaliate with her own accusations. Given the email to your board." "She's counting on that," I said, the pieces finally clicking into place. "She thinks I'll back down to save my career. That I'll let them write me off as the unstable, greedy wife who tried to destroy the family." Sarah touched my arm. "Ruby, the board meeting can wait." I stood up, gathering the documents. "Detective, I want to file those charges." All of them. And I want a restraining order against Linda Harrison. Ruby, please, Melanie begged. If you do this, if I don't, Emily grows up thinking this is normal. That it's okay for family to manipulate and destroy each other. I turned to her. You can help us find her, or you can leave. Choose wisely. Melanie's face crumpled. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling. Mom has a lake house. It's not in her name, it's under a shell company. Emily and I spent last summer there. Detective Morris was already moving, coordinating with other officers. I watched them spring into action, feeling strangely calm. The career I'd built, my reputation, my future, all of it hung by a thread. But for the first time since this nightmare began, I knew exactly what I was fighting for. My phone buzzed one last time. Jake, whatever you're planning, don't. You'll lose everything. I typed back 3 words. I already have. Then I blocked his number and turned to Detective Morris. What do you need me to do? The detective smiled grimly. Tell me everything. From the beginning. So I did. Because some things were worth losing everything for. And some battles needed to be fought, no matter the cost. Behind me, Melanie sank into a chair, her face in her hands. Ahead, the detectives' team mobilized to find Emily. And somewhere between justice and revenge, I finally found my line in the sand. Linda wanted a war. She was about to get one. The lake house loomed before us, dark and silent in the pre-dawn light. Detective Morris's team moved into position while I sat in the unmarked car, my heart hammering against my ribs. Melanie fidgeted beside me, her fingers twisting a tissue into shreds. Mom always comes here when she's upset, she whispered. Ever since Dad. Since what? Since he tried to leave her. She made sure he lost everything first. A crackle of static from the police radio made us both jump. Movement inside. East window. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, watching shadows shift behind curtains. Somewhere in there was Emily, caught in Linda's web of control and manipulation, just like her mother had been, just like Jake. The radio crackled again. Subject is moving toward the back door with the child. Now, Morris ordered. Everything exploded into motion. Officers emerged from the shadows, converging on the house. But before they reached the door, Linda stepped onto the back deck. Emily clutched against her chest. Stay back, she called out, her voice carrying across the yard. I'm not letting you take her. I reached for the car door, but Morris's hand shot out. Wait, Ruby. Linda spotted me in the car. Come out here. Face me yourself instead of hiding behind the police. Melanie grabbed my arm. Don't. You don't know what she's capable of. I know exactly what she's capable of. I shook off her grip and stepped out of the car. Linda's laugh carried across the space between us. Finally showing some backbone? Too late, dear. The board's already seen the evidence against you. Your career is over. Jake's filing criminal charges. You've lost everything. Emily, I called out, ignoring Linda. Are you okay, sweetheart? The little girl nodded, her eyes wide with fear. She's fine, Linda snapped. Better than she'd be with a thief for an aunt. Did you really think I wouldn't have proof of your embezzlement? That I wouldn't protect my family from you? I took another step forward. Like you protected them from your husband? Linda's face went white. Behind me, Melanie made a choked sound. Melanie told me everything, Linda. About the lake house. About what you did to her father. How many others have you destroyed to maintain control? You don't know anything, Linda hissed, but her grip on Emily loosened slightly. I kept walking, each step measured, deliberate. I know about the offshore accounts. The shell companies. The pattern of destruction that follows anyone who challenges you. I have proof of all of it. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your phone. She shifted Emily to one arm, pulling out her phone. I watched her face change as she saw the email I'd sent minutes ago. Documents, bank records, testimonies from her past victims. All copied to the board, the police, and every major news outlet in the city. You wouldn't, she whispered. You taught me well, Linda. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to build something new. Emily suddenly twisted free, running toward me. I caught her as Linda lunged forward, but the police were already moving. In seconds, they had her surrounded. You'll regret this, Linda snarled as they led her away. All of you will. I held Emily close, feeling her trembling. Melanie approached slowly, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have stopped her years ago." "Mom." Emily's small voice cut through the chaos. "Are we safe now?" I looked at the lake house, at Linda being placed in a police car, at the life I'd just burned to the ground. The sky was lightning, dawn breaking over the water. "Yes," I said, and for the first time in years, I believed it. "We're safe." My phone buzzed. Jake, probably learning what had happened. I declined the call. Whatever came next, whatever price I had to pay, some things were worth losing everything for. The sun rose over the lake, painting the world in shades of gold and promise. The boardroom felt like a tomb, 15 faces staring down at me from the elevated platform. My presentation materials, proof of Linda's schemes, Jake's fraud, the years of manipulation, sat untouched before them. Chairman Roberts hadn't even opened the folder. "Mrs. Harrison," he said, "these allegations against your mother-in-law are troubling. They're not allegations. They're facts. Facts that conveniently emerged after suspicious transfers were detected from company accounts under your supervision." The projector hummed to life, displaying transaction records. My stomach dropped as I recognized the pattern, perfectly crafted forgeries showing years of systematic theft. Linda's work, wearing my digital fingerprints. "I can explain." "Mrs. Harrison," Roberts cut in, "given the severity of these discoveries and your recent emotional instability, the board has decided to suspend you pending investigation." Security waited by the door. My access badge would be deactivated before I reached the lobby. 15 years of climbing the corporate ladder, destroyed in 15 minutes. My phone vibrated. Jake's lawyer. Criminal charges filed. Court date set. Recommend immediate settlement. I walked out with my head high, past Sarah's tearful face, past the whispers and stares. In the elevator, another message pinged. "Melanie. They're releasing Mom on bail. Emily's scared. Please help." The doors opened to reveal Jake waiting in the lobby, looking haunted. "Ruby, we need to talk." "Now you want to talk?" "After filing criminal charges." "I didn't. Mom's lawyer filed them. I tried to stop it, but you're still too weak to stand up to her." I moved past him, but he caught my arm. "She's destroying everything," he whispered. "The business loans, the fraud charges, she set us both up. I found proof, but she threatened Emily if I came forward." I jerked away. Convenient timing, Jake. Where was this revelation when she was pouring tea over my head? "Ruby, please. I know I messed up, but Emily, don't." My voice cracked. "Don't use that child as a shield for your cowardice." Outside, reporters waited. Linda's email to the media had done its work. The successful executive's spectacular fall from grace, complete with accusations of theft and family betrayal. Cameras flashed as I pushed through them. My phone buzzed again. "Detective Morris, evidence compromised. Internal Affairs investigation launched. Can't help further." Of course. Linda's influence reached far. I made it to my car before the tears came. Everything I'd built, everything I'd fought for, gone. Linda had outmaneuvered me at every turn, using my own weapons against me. Even my attempt to expose her had played into her hands. A tap on my window made me jump. Emily stood there, tears streaming down her face. Behind her, Melanie hovered uncertainly. "Grandma's coming home," Emily sobbed as I opened the door. "She says we're all going to live together now. Be a proper family. She says you're sick and need help." Melanie called. "We should go." "No." Emily clung to me. "Aunt Ruby's not sick. Grandma's the one who hurts people." I saw the papers, the ones she made Uncle Jake sign. I heard her on the phone about the fake money stuff. Melanie went pale. "Emily, what papers?" "In Grandma's special room. The one we're not supposed to talk about." I looked at Melanie, seeing the same realization dawn in her eyes. Linda's perfect plan had one flaw. She'd forgotten about the one person she thought didn't matter. The child who saw everything. "Emily," I said carefully, "would you be brave enough to tell Detective Morris about those papers?" She nodded, squeezing my hand. My phone buzzed one last time. "Linda, it's over, Ruby. You've lost." I looked at Emily's determined face, at Melanie's dawning courage, at the truth finally emerging from the shadows. Maybe I had lost everything. But sometimes, losing everything was just the beginning. No, Linda, I whispered. It's just starting. Linda's special room looked exactly as Emily had described, a pristine home office with walls of filing cabinets. Detective Morris and his team moved methodically through the space while Linda sat rigid in her chair, her perfect posture finally cracking. This is harassment, she spat. You have no right. Actually, Morris held up the warrant. We do. Emily's testimony was quite specific about which cabinet contained the forged documents. I leaned against the doorframe, watching Linda's face. The same face that had smiled while dumping tea on me, now twisted with barely contained rage. You're using a child, she hissed at me. My own granddaughter. No, Linda. You used her. Just like you used Jake, Melanie, and everyone else. The detective's voice cut through our tension. Found it. Linda lunged for the drawer, but two officers held her back. Morris pulled out a thick folder. Original loan documents, banking records, emails outlining her entire scheme. Everything Emily had described. It's over, Mom. Jake stood in the doorway, Melanie beside him. Both looked shell-shocked as Morris read out document after document. You ungrateful children, Linda's voice trembled. Everything I did was for this family. To keep us together. To make us strong. You made us weak. Melanie stepped forward. You made us afraid. Of you, a failure of everything. Afraid. Linda laughed, high and brittle. I made you successful. Ask your father how well he did after he left. Ask anyone who's crossed me. Ask Emily. I cut in. What were you teaching her, Linda? That love means control? That family means fear. She turned on me, mask finally shattering. You were nothing before this family. A nobody from nowhere who thought she could take my son, my legacy. Your legacy? Jake's voice cracked. Look around, Mom. Look what you've built. Lies. Fraud. Your own granddaughter testified against you because she was more afraid of your love than your anger. Speaking of testimony, Morris interrupted. Mrs. Harrison, we found evidence of extensive financial fraud, identity theft, and criminal conspiracy. You'll need to come with us. Linda's eyes darted around the room, finding no allies. You can't prove. Actually, I pulled out my phone. We can. Emily wasn't the only one gathering evidence. Remember that charity foundation you used to launder money? Their board just voted to cooperate with the investigation. Fully. The color drained from her face. You learned from the best. I stepped closer. You taught me well, Linda. About power. About consequences. About family. She lunged at me suddenly, years of careful control exploding into rage. But before the officers could react, Melanie caught her mother's arm. Stop. Melanie's voice was quiet but firm. Just stop. Linda stared at her daughter's hand, then at Jake's resolute face, then finally at me. Something crumbled behind her eyes. You've destroyed everything, she whispered. No, I replied. You did that yourself. I just showed them the truth. As the officers led her away, Jake touched my arm. Ruby, don't. I stepped back. This isn't forgiveness, Jake. This is justice. There's a difference. What happens now? Melanie asked, staring at the empty doorway where her mother had disappeared. Emily's voice answered from the hallway. We get better. We all turned. She stood there, small but straight-backed, looking so much stronger than any of us. We get better, she repeated. Right, Aunt Ruby? I looked at this broken family. Jake's shame, Melanie's grief, Emily's hope. The revenge I'd wanted had transformed into something else. Something that felt less like victory and more like liberation. Yes, I said, taking Emily's hand. We get better. Behind us, Linda's perfect room lay in ruins, her careful facade stripped away. But in that destruction, I saw something new emerging. Something real. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about destroying the lies they built their power on. And sometimes that's enough. The courtroom emptied slowly, murmurs echoing off marble walls as Linda was led away in handcuffs. I remained seated, watching Emily draw patterns on the wooden bench with her finger. 7 to 10 years, she said thoughtfully. That's like forever. Not forever, I replied. Just long enough. Melanie approached, clutching her purse like a shield. The house sold. Above asking price. She handed me an envelope. Your share of the proceeds. I know it doesn't make up for. Keep it, I said. Put it in Emily's college fund. The ghost of a smile crossed her face. You're still looking out for us, even after everything. Not for us, Emily corrected. For me. Because I told the truth. Jake lingered by the courtroom doors, uncertain. He testified against his mother, finally finding his voice after years of silence. Too late for us, but maybe not too late for himself. My phone buzzed, a message from the board. After Linda's conviction, they launched an internal investigation that cleared my name. They wanted me back, with a promotion and a public apology. I deleted the message without responding. You're not going back, are you? Emily asked, watching my face. No. Some places you can't go back to. Sometimes you have to build something new. Like my art studio. She pulled a folded paper from her pocket. A business plan written in crayon, complete with stick figure drawings. Mom says I'm too young, but I've been saving my allowance. Melanie sighed. Emily. Actually, I interrupted. I'd like to hear this pitch. Emily's face lit up. She launched into her presentation, describing her vision for an after-school art program for kids. No pressure, no competition, just creation. A safe space to express themselves. And see. She pointed to a wobbly organizational chart. You could help run it, Aunt Ruby. You're good at business stuff and Mom's good at art, and we could. She stopped, uncertain. Unless you don't want to be around us anymore. The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. I looked at Melanie's hopeful expression, at Jake's distant guilt, at Emily's simple wisdom. You know what Linda never understood? I said finally. The difference between controlling people and supporting them. Between fear and love. Emily nodded solemnly. Like how she said she was protecting us, but really she was just scared of losing us? Exactly. I picked up her business plan. So maybe it's time to build something different. Something real. Is that a yes? Her eyes sparkled. It's a let's talk about it. Over ice cream. Can Mom come? I met Melanie's gaze. If she wants to. Jake stepped forward. Ruby, not you, Jake. I kept my voice gentle but firm. Some bridges stay burned, but I hope you build better ones. He nodded, understanding finally settling into his features. As he left, Emily slipped her hand into mine. Grandma said revenge would make you ugly inside, she whispered. But it didn't. It made you stronger. Made all of us stronger. I thought about Linda's face as the verdict was read, about the years of manipulation unraveled by a child's truth, about the difference between revenge and justice, between destruction and transformation. Ready to go? I asked. Emily nodded, then paused. Can we get chocolate ice cream? Any flavor you want. As we left the courthouse, I felt the weight of the past 8 years lifting. Linda's perfect family had shattered, but from its ruins, something authentic was emerging. Not perfect, not unmarked, but real. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about getting free. And sometimes, freedom tastes like chocolate ice cream on a Tuesday afternoon, planning a future that nobody else gets to control. I remember the first time I saw Owen Larkin. It was one of those blistering summer days, the kind that leaves you feeling sticky and tired. I was part of a dental outreach program, traveling to rural communities to provide free checkups. We were set up in a small town hall, the smell of antiseptic mingling with the earthy scent of hay and soil that drifted in through the open windows. Hey, you must be Marin, a deep voice said, snapping me out of my thoughts. I turned to see Owen, his broad shoulders filling the doorway. He had this easy smile, the kind that makes you feel like you've known him forever, and I couldn't help but smile back. That's me, I replied, wiping my hands on my scrubs. And you must be Owen. Thanks for helping us set up today. He nodded, his eyes crinkling at the corners. No problem. My boys are getting their checkups, so I figured I'd lend a hand. As we worked, I found myself drawn to his warmth and the way he spoke about his sons, Finn and Leo. There was a kindness in his voice that resonated with me, a promise of family that I had been yearning for. But there was something else too, a heaviness that lingered in his words, like an unspoken burden. Later that evening, Owen invited me to dinner at his family's farm. I was eager to see more of his world, to understand the life he was offering. The farmhouse was charming, with its creaky wooden floors and the smell of fresh bread wafting from the kitchen. I was introduced to his parents, Gladys and Harold, who greeted me with polite smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. As we sat down to eat, conversation flowed easily at first. Owen's sons were delightful, Finn with his curious questions and Leo with his shy smiles. But beneath the surface, I could feel an undercurrent of tension, especially from Gladys. Her eyes flicked over me like she was assessing an intruder. "So, Marin," Gladys said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the chatter. "How do you find farm life? It's quite different from what you're used to, I'd imagine." I hesitated, feeling the weight of her scrutiny. "It's definitely different," I admitted, trying to keep my tone light. "But I'm enjoying it so far." Gladys gave a thin smile, her gaze unwavering. "It takes a certain kind of person to handle it. Not everyone's cut out for this life." The words hung in the air, and I felt a flicker of doubt. Was she right? Could I really fit into this world, or was I just fooling myself? After dinner, I overheard a conversation between Owen and his mother. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but their voices carried through the open window as I helped Finn and Leo with a puzzle in the living room. "She seems nice," Owen was saying, his tone defensive. "Nice isn't enough, Owen," Gladys replied, her voice low but firm. "This isn't just about you. It's about the farm, the boys. We don't need someone who'll run at the first sign of trouble." I felt a chill run down my spine. Her words were like a slap in the face, a reminder of the uncertainty that loomed over everything. My heart ached with the desire to belong, to prove that I could be part of their family. But now, doubt had crept in, whispering that I might never be enough. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Owen had seemed oblivious to his mother's concerns, but I couldn't ignore them. Was I really ready to give up my career, my life, for a chance at something that might never be mine? I stared at the ceiling, the shadows shifting in the moonlight. The promise of family had drawn me in, but now it felt like a fragile dream, one that could shatter with the slightest touch. I wanted to believe in it, to fight for it, but the path ahead was uncertain, and I wasn't sure I had the strength to walk it alone. As sleep finally claimed me, I knew one thing for sure. Things were about to change, and I had to be ready for whatever came next. Little did I know, the seeds of doubt planted that night would grow into something much more complicated, setting me on a path I never expected to walk. Life on the farm turned out to be a lot harder than I'd imagined. The days started before the sun was even up, with the rooster's crow acting as my alarm clock. I'd stumble out of bed, still half asleep, and dive into a never-ending list of chores. Feeding the animals, collecting eggs, and tending to the garden became my new normal. It was exhausting, and I felt like I was constantly playing catch-up. Owen was always busy, his focus entirely on the farm. He'd leave early and come back late, covered in dirt and sweat, with barely a moment to spare for a conversation. It was like living with a ghost, present but distant. I'd try to talk to him about my day, about how hard I was finding everything, but he'd just nod, his mind clearly elsewhere. One afternoon, as I was struggling to fix a broken fence, Finn came over, watching me with those big, curious eyes of his. "Do you miss your old job?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I paused, wiping my brow with the back of my hand. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but I wanted to be here, with you and Leo." He nodded, chewing on his lip thoughtfully. "Grandma says you might not last, that you're too soft for this." The words stung, even though they were just a child's innocent observation. I forced a smile, ruffling his hair. "Well, I'm tougher than I look." But the truth was, I wasn't so sure. Gladys's words echoed in my mind, feeding my insecurities. She seemed to take every opportunity to point out my shortcomings, her disapproval hanging over me like a dark cloud. I tried to brush it off, to focus on the boys and making a home here, but it was hard not to feel like an outsider. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, I found myself in the kitchen with Gladys. We were preparing dinner in silence, the only sound the rhythmic chopping of vegetables. I could feel her eyes on me, weighing and judging. "You know," she said finally, breaking the silence, "Owen's late wife, Sarah, she was a natural at this. Took to it like she was born for farm life." I nodded, unsure of what to say. It felt like a comparison I could never win, a shadow I could never step out from under. "She knew how to keep things running smoothly," Gladys continued, her tone almost nostalgic. "It's not easy, managing all of this." "I'm trying," I said softly, my hands stilling on the knife. She gave a non-committal hum, turning back to her task. "Trying is good, but sometimes it's not enough." Her words lingered long after the conversation ended, gnawing at my resolve. I wanted so desperately to prove myself, to show that I could be part of this family. But with every passing day, it felt like I was slipping further away from that goal. A few days later, something happened that shifted everything. I was in the barn, struggling to stack hay bales, when I overheard Owen talking to his father, Harold. Their voices were low, but the barn was quiet enough for me to catch snippets of their conversation. "She's not cut out for this, Dad," Owen was saying, frustration evident in his tone. "I don't know if she can handle it." Harold grunted, the sound of him shifting his weight audible. "You chose her son. But maybe it's time to rethink things. The farm needs someone strong." My heart sank. It was one thing to face Gladys's criticism, but hearing Owen's doubts cut deeper than I expected. I wanted to confront him, to demand to know if he really felt that way, but fear held me back. What if he agreed with his father? What if I wasn't enough? Instead of confronting him, I threw myself into the work, determined to prove them wrong. But it was like trying to fill a bottomless pit. No matter how hard I worked, it never seemed to be enough to change their minds. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized something had to give. I couldn't keep going on like this, pretending that everything was okay when it clearly wasn't. I needed to find a way to bridge the gap between us, to show Owen that I was in this for the long haul. But as I drifted off to sleep, a new fear crept in. What if I was fighting a losing battle? What if the family I wanted so desperately was slipping through my fingers, and I was powerless to stop it? The uncertainty gnawed at me, leaving me restless and anxious. I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew I had to find them soon. Because if I didn't, I risked losing everything I'd worked for, everything I'd dreamed of. And that was a reality I wasn't ready to face. The attic was a place I'd avoided since moving in. It was dusty and cramped, with cobwebs hanging like ghostly curtains. But Owen had asked me to find some old photo albums, so there I was, sifting through boxes that hadn't been touched in years. I was about to give up when I stumbled upon a small, unmarked box tucked away in the corner. Curiosity got the better of me, and I pulled it out, blowing off the layer of dust. Inside, I found a collection of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon. The handwriting was neat and familiar, and as I read the first letter, my heart sank. They were from Sarah, Owen's late wife. Her words painted a picture that was both intimate and haunting. She wrote about feeling trapped, about the unyielding expectations from Owen's family, and the pressure to be someone she wasn't. It was like reading my own fears and doubts laid bare. The letters revealed a side of Owen's family I hadn't fully seen, a toxic undercurrent that had quietly eroded Sarah's spirit. She spoke of feeling isolated, of being judged for every decision, every misstep. It was a mirror of my own experience, and the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I was still processing this when Owen called from downstairs, his voice pulling me back to the present. I quickly tucked the letters back in the box and hid it behind some old clothes. As I descended the stairs, my mind was racing. How much of what Sarah wrote was still true? Was I heading down the same path she had? That evening, the tension in the house was palpable. Owen seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere as we ate dinner in silence. I wanted to confront him, to ask about the letters, but the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I watched him, searching for signs that he was aware of the storm brewing around us. After dinner, I found myself alone with Gladys in the kitchen. She was washing dishes, her movements methodical and precise. I hesitated, then decided to take a leap. "Gladys," I began, my voice steady. "Did you know Sarah felt overwhelmed here?" She paused, her hands stilling in the soapy water. "Sarah was sensitive," she said finally, her tone dismissive. "Farm life isn't for everyone." But she felt trapped. I pressed, my heart pounding, like she couldn't be herself. Gladys turned to face me, her expression unreadable. "We all have our roles, Marin. It's about knowing your place and doing what's necessary." Her words lingered long after she left the room, a chilling reminder of the expectations that weighed on me. I felt a growing sense of urgency, a need to protect myself and the boys from the same fate that had befallen Sarah. The next day, while Owen was out in the fields, I called Joy. Hearing her voice was like a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't alone. "Joy, I found something," I said, keeping my voice low. "Letters from Sarah." She was struggling just like I am. Joy was silent for a moment, then she spoke, her tone firm. "Marin, you need to think about what's best for you and the boys. If things are as bad as they seem, you might need to leave." Her words echoed in my mind, but the thought of leaving was terrifying. I'd worked so hard to build a life here, to be a part of this family. But now, I wasn't sure if it was worth the cost. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had to change. The letters had opened my eyes to the reality of my situation, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. But how could I confront Owen without tearing everything apart? The next morning, I decided to talk to him. I found him in the barn, repairing a piece of equipment. He looked up as I approached, wiping his hands on a rag. "Owen, we need to talk," I said, my voice firm. He nodded, setting the rag aside. "What's on your mind?" I hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I found Sarah's letters. She was struggling, Owen. Just like I am." His expression shifted, surprise giving way to something darker. "Those letters were private," he said, his voice tense. "I know," I replied, my heart racing. "But they're important. They show a side of this family that's hurting us." He looked away, his jaw clenched. "This farm is everything, Marin. It's my legacy, my responsibility. But what about us?" I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. "What about the boys?" He didn't answer, and the silence stretched between us, heavy and oppressive. I realized then that the farm would always come first for Owen, no matter the cost to his family. As I walked away, my mind was made up. I had to protect myself and the children, even if it meant leaving behind the dream I'd fought so hard to build. The letters had been a wake-up call, and I couldn't ignore them any longer. It was time to take action before it was too late. The days seemed to stretch endlessly, each one blending into the next as I wrestled with the decision looming over me. The letters from Sarah had opened my eyes, but they also left me with a gnawing sense of urgency. I needed to protect Finn and Leo, to shield them from the same toxic dynamics that had consumed Sarah. But leaving was easier said than done. One evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, my head in my hands, Owen walked in. He looked exhausted, the day's labor etched into his features. He paused, sensing my turmoil, but said nothing. Instead, he grabbed a beer from the fridge and joined me at the table, the silence between us heavy with unspoken words. "You've been quiet," he said finally, his voice gruff. I looked up, meeting his gaze. "There's a lot on my mind." He nodded, taking a sip of his beer. "Farm life will do that to you." I wanted to scream, to make him see that it wasn't just the farm. It was everything, the expectations, the unyielding pressure, the feeling of being trapped. But instead, I just nodded, the words refusing to come. The next morning, I found myself in the barn with Finn and Leo. They were playing with a litter of kittens, their laughter a balm to my frayed nerves. Watching them, I felt a fierce protectiveness surge through me. I couldn't let them grow up under the same shadow that had suffocated Sarah. "Mom," Finn said suddenly, using the word he'd started calling me, though it still felt new and fragile. "Why are you sad?" I crouched down, pulling him into a hug. "I'm not sad, sweetie. Just thinking." He looked up at me, his eyes wise beyond his years. "About leaving?" The question caught me off guard, and I hesitated. "Why do you ask that?" He shrugged, glancing at Leo. "We heard you talking to Grandma. She said you might not stay." My heart clenched. Gladys's meddling was more insidious than I'd realized. "I'm not going anywhere without you two," I promised, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. Later that day, as I was hanging laundry, Gladys approached, her expression as unreadable as ever. "You're causing quite a stir," she said, her tone light but with an edge that made my skin prickle. I folded a sheet, trying to keep my voice calm. "I'm just trying to do what's best for the boys." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "The farm is what's best for them. It's their legacy." "Maybe," I replied, meeting her gaze. "But they deserve to choose their own path." Her eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of something dark passing through them. "You're not the first to think you know better." The implication was clear, and it hit me like a cold wind. Sarah had tried to change things too, and look where it had gotten her. But I wasn't Sarah, and I refused to let history repeat itself. That night, as I lay in bed, my thoughts churned. I knew I had to act, but the weight of the decision felt like a mountain pressing down on me. I needed to talk to Owen, to make him see what was at stake. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. The next morning, Owen announced that he was considering pulling Finn from school to help more on the farm. The words hung in the air like a death knell, and I felt something inside me snap. "Owen, we need to talk," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. He looked at me, confusion etched on his face.
"About what?"
"About the boys, about us," I replied, my heart pounding. "This isn't working." He frowned, setting down his coffee. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to speak the truth. "I found Sarah's letters, Owen. She was struggling just like I am. This farm, your family, it's suffocating." His face hardened, a wall going up between us. "Sarah had her issues. And so do I." I shot back, my voice rising. "But this isn't about me or her. It's about Finn and Leo. They deserve better." He stood, his chair scraping against the floor. "You think taking them away is better?" "I think giving them a choice is better," I said, meeting his gaze. "They shouldn't have to live with this pressure." The silence that followed was deafening, and I realized I'd crossed a line. But I couldn't back down now. The stakes were too high, and the boys' future hung in the balance. As Owen turned and walked away, I knew the time for waiting was over. I had to act, to protect the children and myself from a life that would only lead to more heartache. The decision was made, and there was no turning back. The only question was how and when. And deep down, I knew the answer was sooner rather than later. The morning started like any other, with the sun barely peeking over the horizon as I dragged myself out of bed. My body felt heavy, weighed down by the decisions I knew I had to make. I moved through the house like a ghost, my mind racing with thoughts of the future and the uncertainty that lay ahead. I found Owen in the kitchen, already dressed and ready for the day. He glanced up as I entered, his expression unreadable. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded, setting down his coffee cup. "About what?" "About Finn and Leo," I replied, my heart pounding. "And about us." His eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "What about them?" "I don't think pulling Finn from school is the right decision," I said, choosing my words carefully. "He needs to be with other kids to learn and grow." Owen sighed, running a hand through his hair. "The farm needs him, Marin. We all have to pitch in." "But at what cost?" I asked, my voice rising. "He's just a child, Owen. He deserves a childhood." He shook his head, his expression hardening. "This is his legacy. He needs to understand that." The conversation was going nowhere, and I could feel the frustration building inside me. I wanted to make him see, to understand that this wasn't just about the farm. but the wall between us felt insurmountable. Later that day, as I was tending to the garden, Gladys approached. Her presence was like a shadow, always lurking just out of sight. "Owen tells me you're causing trouble again," she said, her voice laced with disapproval. "I'm trying to do what's best for the boys," I replied, not bothering to hide my frustration. She gave a small, dismissive laugh. "You think you know better than us? This farm has been in the family for generations. It's not something you can just walk away from." I straightened, meeting her gaze. "Maybe it's time for change. For the boys' sake." Her eyes flashed, and for a moment, I saw something like fear in them. "You're playing a dangerous game, Marin." The words were a warning, and they lingered in my mind long after she walked away. I knew I was pushing boundaries, challenging the status quo in a way that hadn't been done before. But I couldn't ignore the feeling that I was running out of time. That evening, as I sat in the living room with Finn and Leo, the weight of my decision pressed down on me. I watched them play, their laughter a bittersweet reminder of what I stood to lose. I couldn't let them grow up in an environment that stifled their potential, that forced them into roles they didn't choose. The next day, I received a call from Joy. Her voice was a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. "Marin, I've been thinking," she said, her tone cautious. "If you need a place to stay, my door is always open." Her offer was tempting, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. But the thought of leaving, of uprooting the boys from the only home they'd known, was terrifying. "I don't know if I can do it," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "You have to think about what's best for you and the children," Joy replied gently. "Sometimes that means making tough choices." Her words echoed in my mind, and I knew she was right. I couldn't keep pretending that everything would work out if I just stayed the course. The time for action was now, before the situation became even more untenable. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling as the house creaked and settled around me. I knew what I had to do, but the thought of actually doing it filled me with dread. I was on the brink of a decision that would change everything, and there was no turning back. The following morning, as I was preparing breakfast, Owen walked in, his expression tense. "We need to talk," he said, echoing my words from days before. I nodded, bracing myself for the confrontation. "Okay. I've been thinking about what you said," he began, his tone guarded. "About the boys." "And," I prompted, my heart in my throat. He hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Maybe you're right. Maybe they need more than just the farm." The admission was unexpected, a crack in the facade that had kept us apart. But before I could respond, Gladys entered the room, her presence like a cold wind. "You're not seriously considering this, are you?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Owen glanced at her, then back at me, his resolve wavering. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice barely audible. The moment of vulnerability was gone, replaced by the familiar tension that had become our norm. I realized then that I couldn't rely on Owen to make the right choice, not with his mother's influence looming over him. As I watched them argue, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I couldn't wait for Owen to change, to see things my way. I had to take matters into my own hands, for the sake of my children and the future I wanted for them. The decision was made, and I knew what I had to do. It was time to leave, to build a new life where the boys could thrive, free from the shadows of the past. And this time, I wouldn't let anything stand in my way. The morning air was crisp, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. I had spent the night tossing and turning, my mind a battlefield of fear and determination. I knew what I had to do, but the path ahead seemed fraught with obstacles and uncertainty. I found Owen in the barn, his back turned as he worked on repairing a piece of equipment. The sight of him, so absorbed in the farm, only fueled my resolve. I approached, my footsteps barely audible over the rustle of hay. "We need to talk," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He turned, wiping grease from his hands. "What is it, Marin?" I took a deep breath, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "I'm leaving, Owen. I'm taking the boys." His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, then to anger. You can't be serious. I am, I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. This isn't the life I want for them. Or for me. He shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. You think you can just walk away? This is their home. It's not a home if it feels like a prison. I shot back, the words sharper than I intended. The silence between us was thick with tension, each of us unwilling to back down. I could see the hurt in his eyes, but I couldn't let it sway me. Not now. You're making a mistake, he said finally, his voice low. Maybe, I admitted, but it's my mistake to make. I turned to leave, my heart pounding in my chest, when his voice stopped me. What about the farm? The legacy? I paused, glancing back at him. I can't sacrifice my happiness or the boys' future for a legacy. They deserve a choice. As I walked away, I felt both liberated and terrified. I had taken the first step, but the road ahead was daunting. I had no idea how I was going to make it work, but I knew I had to try. Back in the house, I found Finn and Leo playing quietly in the living room. Their innocence was a stark reminder of why I was doing this. I knelt beside them, my heart aching with the weight of what I had to say. Boys, I began, my voice soft. We're going on an adventure. Finn looked up, his eyes wide with excitement. An adventure? Yes, I said, forcing a smile. We're going to visit Aunt Joy. Leo's face lit up, and he clapped his hands. I love Aunt Joy. Their enthusiasm was infectious, but it also made the reality of our situation hit home. I was uprooting their lives, taking them away from everything they knew. But I had to believe it was for the best. As we packed a few essentials, I felt a pang of guilt. I was leaving behind more than just a house. I was leaving behind a dream I had once cherished. But dreams change, and mine had become a nightmare. Just as we were about to leave, Gladys appeared, her expression a mix of disbelief and disdain. You're really going through with this? I nodded, my resolve unshaken. I have to. She shook her head, her eyes cold. You're making a big mistake, Marin. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said, echoing my earlier words to Owen. But I have to do what's right for us. Her gaze lingered on me, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of something like regret. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by the familiar mask of disapproval. As we drove away from the farm, I felt a mix of fear and relief. The road stretched out before us, a path to a new beginning. But the weight of uncertainty hung over me, a constant reminder of the challenges ahead. When we arrived at Joy's, her warm embrace was a balm to my frayed nerves. She welcomed us with open arms, her home a sanctuary from the storm we'd left behind. You did the right thing, she assured me, her voice a steady anchor. I nodded, though doubt still lingered in the back of my mind. I hope so. As the boys settled in, I felt a glimmer of hope. We were safe, for now, but the future was still uncertain. I knew Owen wouldn't let us go easily, and the thought of what might come next filled me with dread. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of agency over my life. I was no longer a passive participant in my own story. I was writing a new chapter, one where I could build a life on my own terms. The journey ahead would be difficult, and I couldn't predict what challenges we might face. But I was ready to fight for the life I wanted for myself and for the boys. And that, I realized, was the first step toward true freedom. The city buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the quiet isolation of the farm. It was a new world, filled with possibilities, but also uncertainties. Joy's apartment was a refuge, a sanctuary where the boys and I could begin to heal. But even here, the shadows of the past lingered, a reminder that our journey was far from over. I was in the kitchen, trying to focus on making dinner while the boys played in the living room. My mind kept drifting back to the farm, to the confrontation with Owen and the look in his eyes when I told him we were leaving. It was a mix of disbelief and betrayal, emotions that mirrored my own. Joy entered, her presence a calming balm. "How are you holding up?" she asked, her voice gentle. I shrugged, trying to muster a smile. Better, I think. It's just a lot to process. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. You've been through so much, Marin, but you're stronger than you know. I wanted to believe her, but the weight of what I'd done was still heavy on my shoulders. I was about to respond when the doorbell rang, its chimes slicing through the air like a warning. Joy exchanged a glance with me, her expression suddenly tense. I'll get it, she said, moving toward the door. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched her open it, revealing Owen standing on the threshold. He looked different, the usual confidence in his stance replaced by something more vulnerable. Marin, he said, his voice a mixture of relief and desperation. We need to talk. I hesitated, glancing at Joy. She gave me a small nod, a silent reassurance that I wasn't alone in this. Okay, I said finally, stepping forward. Let's talk. We moved to the balcony, the city lights twinkling below us like stars. The air was cool, a gentle breeze ruffling my hair as I faced Owen. I didn't come here to fight, he began, his voice subdued. I need to understand. I crossed my arms, trying to steady my racing heart. Understand what, Owen? Why you left, he said, his eyes searching mine. Why you took the boys. I took a deep breath, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Because I couldn't stand by and watch them become trapped in a life they didn't choose. I couldn't let them lose their childhood. He nodded slowly, pain flickering across his face. I thought I was doing what was best for them. For us. I know you did. I replied, my voice softening. But sometimes, what's best for the farm isn't what's best for the family. He looked away, the weight of my words settling between us. I didn't see it. Not until you left. I felt a pang of sympathy, but I couldn't let it sway me. Owen, I found Sarah's letters. She felt the same way, and it destroyed her. He flinched, the mention of his late wife a sharp reminder of the past. I didn't know, he admitted, his voice barely audible. I didn't know she was so unhappy. We stood in silence, the city noise a distant hum. I could see the struggle in his eyes, the realization that he had been blind to the pain around him. I'm sorry, he said finally, his voice breaking. I'm sorry for everything. The apology hung in the air, a fragile offering of peace. I wanted to accept it, to believe that things could change, but the scars were still too fresh. I need to do what's right for the boys, I said, my voice firm. They deserve a chance to find their own path. He nodded, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. And what about us? I hesitated, the question catching me off guard. I don't know, I admitted. I need time to figure that out. He reached out, his hand brushing mine. I just want you to be happy, Marin, whatever that means. The sincerity in his voice was unexpected, a reminder that beneath the layers of tradition and expectation, there was still the man I had once cared for. Thank you, I said, squeezing his hand. I hope you find happiness too. As he turned to leave, I felt a sense of closure, a chapter ending as a new one began. The confrontation had been painful, but it was necessary. It had forced us both to confront the truths we'd been avoiding, to face the reality of our choices. Back inside, Joy was waiting, her expression a mix of concern and relief. How did it go? I smiled, the tension in my shoulders easing. Better than I expected. She nodded, pulling me into a hug. You did the right thing, Marin. You're on your way to finding peace. As I sat with the boys, watching their carefree laughter, I realized she was right. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was no longer afraid. I had faced my fears and come out stronger, ready to embrace whatever the future held. And for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope that everything would be okay. Life in the city slowly began to feel like home. The boys settled into their new school, their laughter echoing through Joy's apartment as they shared stories of their day. Watching them thrive was a balm to my soul, a confirmation that I'd made the right choice. I found work at a local dental clinic, the familiar routine grounding me in this new chapter of life. The days were busy, but they were filled with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in a long time. I was building something new, something that belonged entirely to us. One afternoon, as I was leaving the clinic, I spotted a familiar figure waiting outside. It was Owen, his posture more relaxed than I'd ever seen. He wore a tentative smile, and I felt a flicker of surprise at the change in him. "Marin," he greeted, his voice warm. "Can we talk?" I nodded, gesturing for him to join me at a nearby cafe. As we sat down, the air between us felt different, less charged with tension and more with understanding. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Owen began, his gaze steady. "About everything." I listened, my heart open but cautious. "What have you realized?" he sighed, glancing out the window before meeting my eyes again. I was holding on too tightly to the past, to the farm. I thought I was doing it for the boys, but I see now it was for me. His admission was unexpected, a glimpse into the transformation he'd undergone. "The boys are happy here," I said softly. "They're thriving." "I can see that," he replied, a hint of sadness in his voice. "And I'm glad. I want what's best for them and for you." I reached across the table, placing my hand over his. "Thank you, Owen. That means a lot." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. It was a moment of closure, a chance to lay old ghosts to rest. "I've decided to sell the farm," Owen said suddenly, his voice steady. "It's time for a new chapter for all of us." The news was a shock, but it felt right. The farm had been a source of both joy and pain, and letting it go was a step toward healing. "What will you do?" I asked, genuinely curious. He shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "Maybe travel, see what else is out there." I've been so focused on the farm, I've forgotten there's a whole world beyond it. I nodded, understanding all too well the need to explore new horizons. "I think that's a great idea." As we parted ways, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. We were both moving forward, each on our own path, but connected by the shared love for Finn and Leo. Back at Joy's, the boys were waiting, eager to share their latest adventures. I listened, my heart full as I watched them, their joy infectious. Later that evening, Joy and I sat on the balcony, the city lights twinkling around us. "You seem lighter," she observed, her tone teasing. I laughed, the sound genuine. "I feel lighter. It's like a weight has been lifted." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You've come a long way, Marin. I'm proud of you." Her words warmed me, a reminder of the strength I'd found within myself. I had faced my fears, confronted the past, and emerged stronger for it. As the night deepened, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. It had been filled with challenges and heartache, but it had also taught me the true meaning of family and the importance of standing up for what I believed in. The future was still uncertain, but I was ready to embrace it, confident in the knowledge that I had the strength to face whatever came next. The next morning, as I prepared breakfast, a letter arrived in the mail. It was from Owen, his handwriting familiar and comforting. Inside, he expressed his gratitude for the time we'd shared and his hopes for the future. It was a heartfelt apology, a promise to be there for the boys in whatever way they needed. I smiled, tucking the letter away. It was a reminder that healing was a journey, not a destination, and that forgiveness was a gift I could give myself. As I watched the boys play, their laughter filling the room, I knew we were going to be okay. We had found our place, and with it, the family I had always yearned for. The journey wasn't over, but it was one I was ready to continue, with love and hope guiding me forward. And that, I realized, was the greatest gift of all.
I never thought a simple email would be the thing to unravel my entire life. But there it was, glowing on my husband's laptop screen at 2 a.m., while I was just trying to print out worksheets for my students. My name is Harper, and until last night, I thought I had the kind of marriage other people envied. The kind where you finish each other's sentences and still laugh at inside jokes from your first date. Ethan and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5 of those. He was the guy who brought me coffee in bed every Sunday morning and never forgot to kiss me goodbye, even when he was running late for work. "Your flight confirmation for the Chicago conference next week," The email subject line read. Nothing unusual there, Ethan traveled frequently for work. But something made me pause. Maybe it was the way he'd been guarding his phone lately, or how he'd started working later and later. I clicked the email. The confirmation showed 2 seats. First class. I felt my stomach drop as I scrolled down and saw the hotel reservation. 1 room, king bed, 5 nights at the Drake Hotel. The booking was under Mr. and Mrs. Ellis, but I definitely wasn't the Mrs. Ellis going to Chicago. My hands were shaking as I opened his sent folder. Dozens of emails to someone named Vanessa Reed. The most recent one made me feel like I'd been punched in the gut. Can't wait to hold you again. These stolen moments aren't enough anymore. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly closed the laptop. Ethan appeared in the doorway of our home office, his hair messed up from sleep. Everything okay, babe? It's late, he said, rubbing his eyes. I forced a smile. Just printing some things for tomorrow's class. My voice sounded strange, too high-pitched. Go back to bed. He nodded, stifling a yawn. Don't stay up too late. Love you. Love you too, I replied automatically, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. After he left, I sat there in the dark, trying to make sense of it all. The Ethan I knew wouldn't do this. The Ethan I married wouldn't. But then again, maybe I didn't know him as well as I thought. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to my sister Chloe, then deleted it. What would I even say? Hey, guess what? Your brother-in-law's cheating on me with someone named Vanessa. It felt too raw, too real to put into words yet. Instead, I went through the motions of printing my worksheets. My students were counting on these for tomorrow's lesson on Romeo and Juliet. The irony wasn't lost on me, teaching teenagers about love and betrayal while my own marriage was apparently nothing but a carefully crafted lie. As I gathered my papers, a new email notification popped up on Ethan's laptop. From Vanessa Reed, missing you already. Dinner was perfect tonight. Tonight. While I'd been grading papers and making dinner for one because Ethan had texted that he was stuck in a late meeting, he'd been with her. I closed the laptop and went upstairs to our bedroom. Ethan was already asleep, looking peaceful and innocent. I stood there watching him breathe, remembering how just yesterday I would have crawled into bed and curled up against him without a second thought. Now I couldn't bear to touch him. I grabbed my pillow and headed to the guest room, my mind racing with questions. How long had this been going on? Who was Vanessa Reed? And most importantly, what was I going to do about it? One thing was certain, Ethan's perfect little world was about to come crashing down. He just didn't know it yet. I made it through exactly 3 classes before breaking down in the faculty bathroom. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely text Chloe, "Need you. Can you meet for lunch?" The morning had been a blur of trying to act normal while my students discussed the tragic romance of Romeo and Juliet. Every time I heard the word love, I felt like throwing up. When Lucas, my colleague who taught in the classroom next door, asked if I was okay, I barely managed a nod. Chloe was already waiting at our usual cafe when I arrived. One look at my face and she knew something was wrong. "Harper, you look like hell. What happened?" I opened my mouth to tell her, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I'd taken of Ethan's emails. "That son of a bitch," Chloe whispered, her face darkening as she scrolled. "How long have you known?" "Found out last night." My voice cracked. "He's taking her to Chicago next week. 5 days at the Drake Hotel. On your anniversary weekend?" Chloe's knuckles went white around her coffee cup. "I'll kill him. The worst part is, he's acting completely normal. Made me breakfast this morning, kissed me goodbye like nothing's wrong." I stabbed at my untouched salad. "I don't even know who he is anymore." "Have you Googled her?" Chloe asked, already typing on her phone. "Vanessa Reed." Oh. Oh wow. What? She turned her phone toward me. There she was, young, gorgeous, smiling confidently in her corporate headshot. Vice President of Marketing at Ethan's company. My stomach lurched. She's everything I'm not, I said quietly. Stop that right now, Chloe snapped. You're smart, successful, and way too good for him. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan, having dinner with clients tonight. Don't wait up. Chloe read the message over my shoulder and swore. Clients. Right. Want me to follow him? No, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. I have a better idea. That evening, I drove to Ethan's office building and parked where I could see the entrance. At 6:30, I watched him walk out with Vanessa. They weren't touching, but the way they looked at each other made my chest ache. I followed their car to an upscale restaurant across town. Through the window, I could see them at a corner table. No other clients in sight. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand, the same way he used to hold mine. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan, meeting running late. Might grab drinks after. I took a picture of them through the window and sat there, staring at it. Part of me wanted to burst in and create a scene. Instead, I drove home and did something worse. I acted normal. I left his dinner in the oven, graded papers at the kitchen table, and waited. He came home at 11, smelling of expensive wine and wearing guilt like cologne. Sorry I'm so late, he said, kissing my cheek. These clients are demanding. That's okay, I replied, gathering my papers. How was the restaurant? He froze for a split second, so brief anyone else might have missed it. What restaurant? The one where you had your meeting. I kept my voice casual. I drove by on my way to pick up groceries. Looked nice. Another pause. Oh, right. Yeah, it was good. I headed upstairs, leaving him standing in the kitchen. In our bedroom, I opened his closet and found the shirt he'd worn to work that morning. There was a smudge of red lipstick on the collar. Vanessa had been wearing red lipstick at dinner. I carefully hung the shirt back up and got into bed, my mind racing with possibilities. Ethan thought he was so clever, living his double life. But he had no idea what was coming. Tomorrow, I decided, I would start making some plans of my own. The credit card statement arrived 3 days before Ethan's planned trip to Chicago. I wasn't supposed to see it, he usually handled all the bills online, but this one came in the mail by mistake. Sitting at our kitchen table, I stared at charge after charge that told the story of his other life. Dinner for 2 at places we'd never been. A jewelry store purchase from last month, probably explaining the bracelet I'd spotted on Vanessa's wrist at the restaurant. Hotel charges from business trips that now made perfect sense. My hands were steady as I laid out the evidence on the table, the credit card statement, screenshots of emails, photos from the restaurant. Then I waited. When Ethan came home, he was humming. Actually humming. He stopped dead when he saw me sitting there. We need to talk about your upcoming anniversary trip to Chicago, I said quietly. His face did something complicated, surprise, fear, then smooth confidence. What are you talking about? Don't. I pushed the evidence toward him. Just don't. He glanced at the papers, then at me, like a chess player calculating his next move. Harper, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been fucking your vice president of marketing. Or how you've been spending our money taking her to 5-star hotels. It's not what you think. Really? I laughed, and it sounded strange even to my ears. Because I think you're planning to spend our anniversary weekend with another woman. Please, tell me how I'm misinterpreting that. He sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. You've been so distant lately, always focused on your students, your lesson plans. When was the last time you actually paid attention to me? The audacity of his words hit me like a physical blow. So this is my fault? I didn't say that. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. But relationships are a two-way street. Vanessa. She sees me. She understands the pressure I'm under. And I don't. I've supported you through every promotion, every late night, every weekend working. I've built my entire life around you. That's the problem. He stood up, pacing. You've lost yourself in being my wife. You used to be fun, spontaneous. Now it's all about your work, your routine. I felt something snap inside me. My work? I'm a teacher, Ethan. I shape young minds. What exactly do you do that's so important? Push papers and apparently your coworkers? His face darkened. See? This is exactly why. Why what? Why you couldn't keep it in your pants? Why you had to destroy our marriage? It's not destroyed unless you make it that way, he said, his voice softening. We can work through this. I'll end it with Vanessa. We can go to counseling. I stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. This man who could stand there, offering to fix things like he'd dented my car instead of shattering my entire world. When did you stop loving me? I asked. I never. Because I stopped loving you about 2 minutes ago. The words came out calm, certain. When you tried to blame me for your choices. He reached for me again. Baby, please. I stepped back. Don't call me that. Don't touch me. In fact, don't come home tonight. Or tomorrow. I need time to think. This is my house too, he protested. The house that my inheritance helped buy? The one that's in both our names? Yeah, we'll see about that. Something ugly flashed across his face. You're being hysterical. Let's talk about this when you've calmed down. I am calm, I said, and I was. Eerily calm. But you should know, I sent copies of everything to my lawyer this morning. Just in case you were thinking of doing any creative accounting before your trip. He went pale. You're bluffing. I picked up my phone, showed him the email confirmation from the law firm. Enjoy Chicago, Ethan. I hope she's worth it. As I walked upstairs, I heard him calling after me, his voice tinged with panic. But I didn't turn around. Instead, I went to our bedroom and started packing his bags. The time for tears was over. Now it was time for war. The 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test felt like a cosmic joke. I sat on the bathroom floor of my sister's guest house, where I'd been staying for the past week. Staring at the little window that had just complicated everything. 3 tests. All positive. A knock on the door made me jump. Harper? You've been in there for 20 minutes, Chloe called out. I opened the door and wordlessly held up the tests. Chloe's eyes widened. Oh shit, she whispered. Are you sure? As sure as 3 different brands can make me. She sat down next to me on the bathroom floor. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Jenna, having dinner with Ethan tonight. He's a mess. Says you're not answering his calls. What's going on? My stomach lurched, and not just from the morning sickness I now realized I'd been ignoring. Jenna, my supposed best friend, who'd introduced me to Ethan 8 years ago, was having dinner with him? Unbelievable, Chloe muttered, reading over my shoulder. Want me to tell her what her precious Ethan's been up to? No. I stood up, suddenly energized by anger. I'll do it myself. An hour later, I walked into the restaurant where Jenna had tagged herself on Instagram. They were sitting in a corner booth, their heads close together. Ethan's hand was on Jenna's arm. Well, isn't this cozy? I said, approaching their table. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Jenna's face flushed red. Harper. I was just trying to convince me to take him back. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo of Ethan and Vanessa at dinner. Did he tell you about her? Or about the Chicago trip he's planning for their romantic getaway? Jenna's face crumpled. He said you were being paranoid. That you were making things up because you were jealous of his success. Of course he did. I turned to Ethan. You're good at that, aren't you? Spinning stories, making people believe whatever version of reality suits you best. Harper, please, Ethan stood up, reaching for me. Let's talk about this privately. Like how you privately discussed our marriage with Jenna. Or how you privately planned your affair with Vanessa. Other diners were starting to stare. Ethan's jaw tightened. You're making a scene, he hissed. No, you made the scene when you decided to destroy our marriage. I felt oddly calm, even as my world was imploding again. By the way, Jenna, you should know, he's been using the engagement ring fund we've been saving for your brother to pay for hotels with Vanessa. Jenna gasped. Her brother and his girlfriend had been waiting months for Ethan to make good on his promise to help them buy a ring. Is that true? She demanded. Ethan's silence was answer enough. I trusted you, Jenna whispered, gathering her things. I defended you to Harper. God, I'm such an idiot. She rushed past me, tears in her eyes. Ethan watched her go, then turned to me with fury in his eyes. Happy now? You've ruined everything. No, you did that all by yourself. I placed my wedding ring on the table. I'll have my lawyer contact yours about the divorce. Harper, wait. His voice softened, became pleading. We can fix this. Whatever you want, counseling, a fresh start, anything. For a moment, my hand drifted to my stomach. Should I tell him? Would it make a difference? But then I remembered how he'd blamed me for his choices, how easily he'd lied to everyone we knew. The thing is, Ethan, I don't want to fix this anymore. I want to be free of it. Of you. I walked out of the restaurant into the cool evening air, leaving him calling after me. My phone was already buzzing with messages, probably Jenna, maybe Ethan, possibly even Chloe checking on me. I ignored them all and drove to the drugstore instead. I needed prenatal vitamins. Whatever happened next, I had more than just myself to think about now. And I was done letting Ethan Ellis determine my future. The ultrasound screen showed a tiny flickering heartbeat. 8 weeks along, the technician said. I'd asked for the first appointment of the day, hoping to avoid running into anyone I knew at the hospital. Would you like a picture to take home? She asked. I nodded, thinking about the baby book my mother had kept for me, filled with ultrasound photos and milestone markers. This child's book would be different. No proud father smiling in the pictures, no joint announcements to family and friends. Lucas was waiting in the hospital cafe when I came down. He'd insisted on driving me after finding me throwing up in the faculty bathroom yesterday. Everything okay? He asked, sliding me a ginger tea. Yeah, it's. I pulled out the ultrasound photo, then quickly tucked it away as I spotted a familiar figure approaching, Vanessa Reed. Wearing a designer suit and a concerned expression that looked rehearsed. Harper, she said, stopping at our table. I'm glad I ran into you. We should talk. Lucas started to stand, but I grabbed his arm. Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of my friend. She sat down uninvited, folding her manicured hands on the table. Ethan's a mess. He's not eating, barely sleeping. This situation is affecting his work. That must be inconvenient for you, I said, fighting another wave of nausea. He loves you, she insisted. What we had. It was a mistake. We've ended it. When? Before or after I caught you? She had the grace to look uncomfortable. I know you're hurt, but... No, I cut her off. You don't know anything about me. Just like you don't know anything about love. Love doesn't book hotel rooms behind someone's back. Love doesn't destroy families for fun. It wasn't like that, she protested. We never meant to. To get caught? I stood up, my chair scraping loudly. Tell Ethan if he wants to discuss anything, he can talk to my lawyer. And Vanessa? That promotion you're up for? Good luck explaining the company's morality clause to the board. Her face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. She hurried away, her heels clicking on the hospital floor. Lucas whistled low. Remind me never to get on your bad side, he said. I made it 3 steps before the dizziness hit. Lucas caught me as my knees buckled. I need to sit down, I mumbled. You need to eat something, he corrected, flagging down a nurse. 20 minutes later, I was back in an exam room, hooked up to N4 for dehydration. The doctor was frowning at my chart. Your blood pressure's concerning, she said. Have you been under unusual stress lately? I laughed until tears came. You could say that. Well, whatever it is, it needs to stop. This pregnancy is high risk now. You need rest, regular meals, and absolutely no drama. No drama. Right. I was about to text Chloe when my phone lit up with a message from Ethan. We need to talk. Coming to Chloe's tonight. Important. Don't do it, Lucas said, reading over my shoulder. Whatever he wants to say, it can wait. No, I said, touching the ultrasound photo in my pocket. It's time he knew. All of it. That evening, I sat in Chloe's living room, the ultrasound photo on the coffee table between us. Ethan stared at it, his face unreadable. Is this some kind of joke? He finally asked. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing about our marriage. A baby won't fix this, Harper. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm telling you because you have a right to know. What you do with that information is up to you. He stood up, running his hands through his hair. I can't deal with this right now. I have the Chicago trip, the merger. And Vanessa? I asked quietly. His silence was deafening. Get out, I whispered. Harper. Get out. As the door slammed behind him, I felt something inside me break. But this time, it wasn't my heart. It was the last thread of hope that the man I married still existed somewhere inside the stranger he'd become. The morning Ethan was supposed to leave for Chicago, I woke up to find my bank accounts frozen. All of them. Even my personal savings account from before our marriage. He's trying to force you to talk to him, Chloe said when I called her, panic rising in my throat. Don't give in. But I had bills to pay, prenatal vitamins to buy, and a lawyer who needed her retainer. I had no choice. I agreed to meet Ethan at our house, our former house. Walking in felt like stepping into a museum of my previous life. Family photos still hung on the walls, my coffee mug still sat by the kitchen sink, everything perfectly preserved like the moment I'd left. Ethan was waiting in the living room, looking immaculate in his business suit. You're late. You're a bastard. I remained standing. Unfreeze the accounts. After we talk. He gestured to the couch. Please sit. I'll stand. Fine. He loosened his tie. I've been thinking about the baby. Don't. We could try again, he continued as if I hadn't spoken. Marriage counseling, a fresh start. I'll cancel the Chicago trip. Too late. I already sent the board of directors proof of your affair with a subordinate. His face darkened. You what? They're reviewing it this morning. Probably why your phone's been buzzing for the last 5 minutes. He grabbed his phone, color draining from his face as he read the messages. Do you have any idea what you've done? Exactly what you taught me to do, protect myself. By destroying my career? He stood up, hands clenched. I built that company from nothing. And I built a life with you from nothing. Guess we're both losing things we care about. His laugh was ugly. You think you're so clever? You have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, I do. I pulled out my phone, showed him the screen. I'm recording this conversation. Every threat, every attempt at manipulation. My lawyer's going to love it. Your lawyer can't help you if you can't pay her. He stepped closer. How long can you last without access to your money, Harper? A week? A month? How long can you last without your reputation? I countered. The board knows everything, the affair, the misused company funds, the fake expense reports. Even that business trip to Vegas that was actually a weekend with Vanessa. His hand shot out, gripping my arm. You vindictive bitch. Let go of me. My voice shook, but I held my ground. Or I'll add assault to the restraining order I'm filing tomorrow. The front door opened. Lucas stepped in, followed by Chloe. Everything okay in here? Lucas asked, his tone making it clear it wasn't really a question. Ethan released my arm, straightening his suit. We're fine. Just having a private conversation. Not anymore, Chloe said, moving to my side. Harper? I nodded, suddenly exhausted. We're done here. No, Ethan said, desperation creeping into his voice. We're not done until. His phone rang. He glanced at it, swore, and answered. I could hear raised voices on the other end. While he was distracted, Lucas guided me toward the door. But Ethan's next words stopped me cold. What do you mean, suspended pending investigation? This is ridiculous, she's lying about everything. The pregnancy, the affair, all of it. The room spun. I grabbed Lucas's arm for support. What did you just say? I turned back to Ethan. He covered the phone. You heard me. You think you're the only one who can play dirty? I told the board you're mentally unstable, making up stories because I asked for a divorce. Including this convenient pregnancy. The pain started low in my abdomen, sharp and insistent. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. Harper? Chloe's voice seemed far away. You're bleeding. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was Ethan's face. Watching me fall with the same cold detachment he'd shown when I told him about our baby. Some things, I realized as consciousness slipped away, you can never take back. And some betrayals cut too deep to ever heal. The hospital room was too bright, too sterile. I woke to the steady beep of monitors and Chloe asleep in a chair beside me. My hands immediately went to my stomach. The baby's stable, a nurse said, appearing at my bedside. But you're on strict bed rest. No more stress. I almost laughed. No more stress. Right. There's someone insisting on seeing you, she continued. Your husband? We can send him away if you prefer. Before I could answer, Ethan appeared in the doorway. He looked wrecked, tie gone, shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. Chloe jerked awake. Get out. Please, he said, his voice rough. 5 minutes. I nodded to Chloe. She squeezed my hand and left, but not before shooting Ethan a look that could have melted steel. He approached the bed slowly, like I was a wounded animal that might bolt. The doctor showed me the ultrasound. Now you believe me? Harper, He sat heavily in the chair. When they rushed you into emergency, there was so much blood. I thought. I realized. That I wasn't lying. My voice was steady, despite the tears threatening to fall. That maybe I wasn't the crazy, vindictive wife you painted me as to save your precious career? I got the call while you were in surgery. The board voted unanimously. I'm out. He laughed hollowly. Funny how none of that seems important anymore. Don't. I turned away. Don't pretend you've suddenly grown a conscience. It's not pretense. Seeing you collapse, knowing I caused this. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. You didn't just cause this, Ethan. You chose it. Every lie, every night with her, every attempt to destroy me, those were choices. I know. And I'm sorry. Please, let me try to make it right. For you, for the baby. There is no more us, I cut him off. The man I married died the moment he chose another woman over his family. Harper. But you want to make it right? Fine. Here's how: sign the divorce papers. Release the accounts. Walk away. And the baby? We'll know they have a mother who loved them enough to demand better than a father who only showed up when he had nothing left to lose. His face crumpled. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of the man I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, real. But then I remembered how easily he'd worn other masks before. I do love you, he whispered. No, you love the idea of me. The wife who made you look good, who supported your dreams while setting aside her own. But that woman's gone. The monitor's beeping increased. A nurse appeared, frowning at my vitals. I think it's time for you to leave, she told Ethan. He stood, straightening his shoulders. The accounts will be unfrozen by morning. I'll have my lawyer send over the signed papers. Goodbye, Ethan. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I know, I said quietly. But sorry doesn't fix what's broken. After he left, Chloe and Lucas came back in. Lucas handed me a chocolate bar, my favorite kind. You okay? He asked. I touched my stomach, feeling the smallest flutter of movement. No. But I will be. The board called, Chloe said. They want to talk to you about Ethan's replacement. Apparently, they're impressed with how you handled everything. I don't want anything to do with that company. Maybe not, she smiled. But they're offering a pretty generous settlement to keep it that way. I closed my eyes, suddenly exhausted. The past weeks felt like a lifetime, each betrayal and confrontation leaving its mark. But for the first time, I could see beyond the pain, beyond the revenge. Sometimes winning isn't about destroying your opponent. Sometimes it's about finding the strength to walk away and build something new from the ashes of what was lost. 6 months later, I stood in my new apartment, watching the sunset through floor-to-ceiling windows. My baby girl kicked inside me, strong and steady, like she was reminding me we'd made it. The divorce papers had come through last week. Ethan signed everything without argument, including the generous settlement and support agreement. I heard through Jenna that he'd moved to Seattle for a fresh start. Vanessa had apparently moved to London. Good riddance to both of them. Earth to Harper, Chloe called from the kitchen. These boxes won't unpack themselves. I was sorting through the last box when I found it, my old wedding album. I'd forgotten I'd packed it. Want me to throw it out? Chloe asked, watching me carefully. No, I said, surprising myself. It's part of the story I'll tell her someday. About how her mom found her strength. The doorbell rang. Lucas stood there with takeout and paint samples. Thought you might want to start planning the nursery. He'd been doing that lately, showing up with just what I needed, exactly when I needed it. Not pushing, just being there. It scared me how much I'd started looking forward to his visits. Perfect timing, I said, letting him in. Though I should warn you, Chloe has strong opinions about color schemes. I heard that. Chloe called out. And I'm right about the yellow. As they playfully argued about paint colors, I opened my phone to a new email from Ethan. My heart didn't race anymore when I saw his name. I signed up for therapy, he'd written. Not to win you back, I know that's impossible. But because I need to understand why I destroyed the best thing in my life. I hope someday our daughter can know a better version of me than the man I was. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Some wounds need time to heal, and some stories don't have neat endings. Harper? Lucas was watching me, concern in his eyes. You okay? Yeah, I said, putting my phone away. Just thinking about endings and beginnings. Speaking of beginnings, Chloe interrupted, Lucas, tell Harper about that house for sale near the school. He shot her a look. I was going to bring that up naturally. What house? I asked. It's nothing, just. There's this craftsman with a great yard, perfect for kids. It's close to both our schools, and... He ran a hand through his hair. I know it's too soon, but maybe someday. The old me would have panicked at the hint of future possibilities. But I wasn't that person anymore. Tell me about the house, I said. Later that night, after they'd left, I sat in what would be the nursery, surrounded by paint samples and half-unpacked boxes. My daughter kicked again, and I placed my hand over the spot. You know what, little one? Sometimes the happy ending isn't the one you planned. Sometimes it's better. I picked up my phone and typed a final email to Ethan. I hope you find what you're looking for. She deserves to know both her parents found peace. Then I picked up my phone again and texted Lucas, about that house. When can we see it? The future stretched out before me, not perfect but full of possibility. I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, desperately trying to hold on to a life that was already gone. I wished I could tell her that losing everything would lead to finding herself. But maybe that's the thing about rock bottom, you can't see the way out until you start climbing. And sometimes, just sometimes, what you build from the ruins turns out to be stronger than what fell apart. I looked at the paint samples scattered across the floor, each color representing a different possible future. Tomorrow, I'd start painting. Tonight, I'd just breathe, grateful for endings that make way for new beginnings.
I stand in the doorway of the Blackwood mansion, counting the crystal chandeliers, 3 in the foyer alone, and wondering how many years it would take me to afford just one of them on my teacher's salary. Mother Margaret, as she insists I call her, watches me from her perch on the curved staircase. Her silver streaked hair pulled into an immaculate chignon that probably costs more than my monthly rent. Cecilia, darling, do close the door. You're letting in the riffraff, she says, not bothering to hide her smirk as I fumble with my overnight bag. I'm here because Michael insisted we spend the weekend celebrating his parents' 35th wedding anniversary. It'll be different this time, he promised. They'll warm up to you eventually. Right. And maybe pigs will start doing synchronized swimming in that Olympic-sized pool out back. Thank you for having me, I manage, the words tasting like copper in my mouth. The marble floor echoes my footsteps, broadcasting my presence like an unwanted announcement. Rebecca appears at the top of the stairs, Michael's perfect sister in her perfect Chanel suit, wearing that perfect plastic smile. Oh good, you made it. Mother was just saying how interesting it would be to have you join us this weekend. I bet she was. Interesting like a car crash or a public execution. Where's Michael? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. Conference call in Father's study, Margaret replies, descending the stairs with the grace of a queen addressing her subjects. Business before pleasure, you understand. Or perhaps you don't, given your profession. There it is. The first dig of what promises to be a weekend full of them. I clutch my bag tighter, my knuckles white against the worn leather. I'll show you to your room, Rebecca offers, though we both know it's not really an offer. The East Wing, Mother? The blue guest room, Margaret corrects, her voice sharp. The East Wing is for family. I follow Rebecca up the stairs, past oil paintings of stern-faced Blackwoods who seem to judge me with their dead eyes. The blue guest room, as it turns out, is at the furthest end of the West Wing, practically in another zip code from Michael's old bedroom. Dinner's at 7, Rebecca announces, hovering in the doorway. Mother expects everyone dressed appropriately. Of course she does. I drop my bag on the bed, which probably costs more than my car. Oh, and Cecilia? Rebecca pauses, her perfectly manicured hand on the doorframe. Try not to embarrass Michael this time. Last Christmas was unfortunate. Before I can respond, she's gone, leaving behind only the echo of her Louboutins on hardwood and the faint scent of Chanel No. 5. I sink onto the bed, pulling out my phone to text Michael, but pause when I hear voices drifting through the heating vent. Margaret's distinctive tone carries clearly. It's time we discussed Michael's future at the company. I won't have that woman derailing everything we've built. Did you know she's been encouraging him to start his own business? In Seattle, of all places. What do you suggest? Rebecca's voice, eager to please. I've already spoken with the board. We're creating a position that will require extensive travel, keeping him busy, away from her influence. She'll either leave on her own or show her true colors trying to stop it. My hands shake as I lower the phone. The perfect mask of civility drops, and suddenly I see everything clearly. This isn't just about acceptance anymore. This is war, and Margaret has just made her first move. Fine. If she wants to play games, I'll play. But I'm not following her rules anymore. I open my suitcase and pull out the black cocktail dress I bought specifically for tonight. Time to show Mother Margaret exactly what kind of woman her son married. The anniversary dinner feels like a minefield where every word could trigger an explosion. I smooth down my black dress, carefully chosen to match Margaret's usual cocktail attire, and watch Michael fidget with his tie across the mahogany dining table. He hasn't met my eyes since he emerged from his father's study. Cecilia, dear, Margaret's voice cuts through the clink of sterling silver, do tell everyone about your little school. It must be so rewarding, shaping young minds on such a modest scale. I take a slow sip of wine, noting how she's seated Michael between herself and Rebecca. Actually, I've just been appointed department head. We're implementing a new curriculum that's being considered for adoption across the district. Rebecca's fork scrapes against her plate. How nice. Though I suppose leadership means something different in the public sector. Speaking of leadership, Margaret interjects, Michael, darling, tell everyone about the Singapore project. My hand tightens around the stem of my wine glass. Singapore. This is the first I'm hearing about it. Michael clears his throat. It's still in the early stages, Mother. Nonsense. The board's already approved your position as project director. 18 months minimum, isn't it? Such an opportunity. The room spins slightly. 18 months. Our plans for Seattle dissolve like sugar in rain. Congratulations, brother dear. Rebecca's smile is razor sharp. Though it must be difficult for you, Cecilia, with Michael away so much already. Actually, I set down my glass with deliberate care. Michael and I have been discussing other opportunities. Closer to home. Margaret's eyes flash. Have you now? Michael, you hadn't mentioned. It's nothing concrete, Michael interrupts, still avoiding my gaze. Just ideas. Ideas can be dangerous things, Margaret says softly. Especially when they come from outside influences. Aunt Helen, silent until now, speaks up from her end of the table. I rather think new ideas are exactly what this family needs. Don't you agree, George? Michael's father grunts noncommittally behind his newspaper, his standard response to family tension. Helen, please, Margaret's tone could freeze hell itself. This is hardly the time to. When is the time, Margaret? I surprise myself by asking. When Michael's safely tucked away in Singapore? When you've managed to schedule every minute of his life without consulting his wife? The silence that follows is deafening. Rebecca looks delighted at my outburst, while Michael seems to be trying to disappear into his chair. I think, Margaret says carefully, that you forget your place in this family, Cecilia. We've welcomed you. Welcomed? I laugh, and it sounds slightly unhinged even to my ears. Is that what you call this? The separate bedroom? The constant reminders of my inadequacy? The secret plans for my husband's future? Cecilia, Michael finally speaks, his voice strained. Can we discuss this later? Later. Always later. I stand, my chair scraping against the floor. Well, I have some news of my own. I've been offered a position too, heading up an educational consulting firm. In Seattle. Margaret's face goes absolutely still. Michael, you didn't tell me. Because he doesn't know, I cut in. I just found out today. Funny how we both seem to be making life-changing decisions without consulting each other. I turn to leave, but pause at the doorway. Oh, and Mother Margaret? Black really isn't your color. You might want to rethink your wardrobe choices. As I stride away, I hear Aunt Helen's rich laugh floating behind me, followed by the distinct sound of Margaret choking on her wine. It's a small victory, but right now, I'll take what I can get. Back in the blue guest room, I pull out my phone and start researching Singapore. If Margaret wants to play hardball, she's about to learn that this public school teacher knows how to swing back. The question is, whose side will Michael choose when the dust settles? A soft knock at my door interrupts my plotting. Cecilia? It's Aunt Helen's voice. I think it's time we had a proper chat about Margaret's other little schemes. There's quite a bit you should know. I smile. Maybe I'm not as alone in this war as I thought. Aunt Helen's revelations hit like dominoes falling in slow motion. We sit in her private study, where even the leather-bound books seem to hold secrets. She slides a manila envelope across her antique desk. Rebecca's been busy, Helen says, tapping the envelope. These are copies of emails between her and several of your colleagues at school. She's been digging. My hands shake as I read. Carefully crafted questions about my teaching credentials. Subtle implications about my relationship with a former principal. Suggestions of misconduct that never happened. She's trying to get me fired? Margaret's idea, Helen says, pouring us both a generous measure of bourbon. She believes financial pressure might encourage you to accept their plans for Michael. The bourbon burns, going down. How long have you known? Long enough to gather proof. Helen's smile is grim. Margaret forgets I'm on the school board's advisory committee. Nothing gets past my desk without my knowledge. A knock interrupts us. Rebecca stands in the doorway, her face falling when she sees me. Oh. I didn't realize you had company, Aunt Helen. Just discussing educational policy, I say sweetly, raising my glass. You seem quite interested in that lately. Color drains from her face. She recovers quickly, but I catch the flash of panic in her eyes. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. No? Should we call Dr. Stevens at Madison High? Or perhaps Principal Rodriguez? Rebecca's perfectly manicured hands clench. You're delusional. Mother was right about you, you'll say anything to cause trouble. Funny, I have emails that suggest otherwise. I pull out my phone, watching her face. Should I forward them to Michael? I'm sure he'd be fascinated by your creative writing skills. You wouldn't dare. But her voice wavers. Try me. She spins on her heel and storms out. Seconds later, we hear her heels clicking rapidly toward Margaret's wing. Well, Helen says, that should make dinner interesting. I need to find Michael. I stand, but Helen catches my arm. Wait. There's more. She pulls out another document. Margaret's been transferring company shares to Rebecca. Shares that were promised to Michael. My stomach drops. Does he know? Michael sees what he wants to see. But if he loses those shares, your Seattle dreams die with them. I'm halfway to Michael's study when I hear raised voices from Margaret's sitting room. I pause, pressing close to the wall. She's becoming a liability, Margaret hisses. The board won't approve Michael's promotion if there's any hint of scandal. I told you she had proof, Rebecca sounds panicked. She's going to tell Michael everything. Let her try. Who do you think he'll believe? The woman who's given him everything, or the gold digger trying to tear him away from his family? I've heard enough. I push open the door, making both women jump. Why don't we ask him? Margaret recovers first. Eavesdropping now? How predictably common. Common enough to record everything you just said. I hold up my phone. Along with proof of Rebecca's little smear campaign. You wouldn't dare destroy this family, Margaret says, but there's fear beneath her certainty. You're right. I wouldn't. I move closer, lowering my voice. But I will destroy you, Margaret. Every carefully constructed lie, every manipulation, every scheme, I'll expose it all unless you back off. Mother? Michael's voice from the doorway makes us all turn. What's going on? The moment stretches like glass about to shatter. I look at my husband's confused face, at Margaret's calculating eyes, at Rebecca's barely concealed panic, and make my decision. Your mother was just explaining why she's been transferring your company shares to Rebecca. The words fall like bombs in the quiet room. Weren't you, Mother Margaret? Michael steps forward, frowning. What shares? I pull out Helen's document, handling the truth like the weapon it is. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies, it's about forcing them to destroy themselves. Perhaps, I say softly, we should all sit down. There's quite a lot to discuss. 3 days after the confrontation, Michael still won't look at me during breakfast. The morning sun streams through the conservatory windows, turning everything golden except the cold space between us. His coffee goes untouched, his phone a shield against conversation. The board meeting's today, I say, breaking our careful silence. He adjusts his tie, the blue one Margaret gave him last Christmas. I know. Will you vote against the share transfer? It's complicated. His standard answer these days. Everything's complicated when you're choosing between your wife and your mother. Like Singapore is complicated? I push my plate away. Or like Rebecca trying to get me fired is complicated? She's my sister, Cecilia. His voice carries an edge of warning. And mother. She had her reasons. For stealing your inheritance? For protecting the company. He finally meets my eyes. Did you ever think that maybe she's right? That your plans for Seattle might be impulsive? The betrayal hits like ice water. Before I can respond, Rebecca appears in the doorway, perfectly composed in her executive suit. Michael, Mother needs you in the study. The lawyers are here. He stands immediately, always the obedient son. At the door, he pauses. We'll talk later. Will we? But he's already gone. Rebecca lingers, satisfaction radiating from her like perfume. Oh, don't look so wounded, Cecilia. Did you really think exposing Mother's plans would change anything? Michael knows where his loyalty belongs. With his wife? With his family. She steps closer, voice dropping. But here's what I don't understand, why are you still fighting? You've lost. Michael's already signed the preliminary paperwork for Singapore. My coffee cup clatters against its saucer. What? Last night. Mother had the contracts ready. Her smile is pure venom. 18 months just became 3 years. Congratulations on your long-distance marriage. I'm out of my chair before I realize I'm moving, but Aunt Helen's voice stops me at the door. Rebecca, darling, I believe the lawyers were asking for you as well. Helen sweeps in, elegant as always. Something about those emails you sent to Madison High? Rebecca's face pales. You wouldn't dare. The school board takes harassment very seriously. Helen examines her manicure. As does the SEC when it comes to undisclosed share transfers. Such messy business, don't you think? Rebecca flees, leaving behind the scent of fear and Chanel. He signed? My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Helen touches my arm. Not yet. But he will, unless. Unless what? Unless you're willing to play their game better than they do. She pulls out her phone, showing me an email. Margaret's not the only one with connections to the board. There's a meeting this afternoon at Blackwood Industries. I can get you in. To do what? To remind them that secrets have a way of becoming scandals. She smiles, but it's not her usual warm expression. The question is, are you ready to stop playing defense? I think about Michael's averted eyes, Rebecca's smirk, Margaret's endless machinations. Something shifts inside me, like a lock clicking open. What do you need me to do? Helen's smile widens. Wear that black dress again. And bring the files I gave you, all of them. As I head upstairs to change, I catch a glimpse of myself in one of the mansion's countless mirrors. I barely recognize the woman staring back. There's something harder in her eyes, something that looks remarkably like Margaret. My phone buzzes with a text from Michael. We need to talk before the board meeting. I type back, yes, we do. But not on your mother's terms. The response is immediate. What does that mean? I don't answer. Let him worry for a change. Let them all worry. Because Helen's right, it's time to stop reacting and start acting. If Margaret wants to teach me about power, she's about to learn I'm a very quick study. I smooth down my dress and check my reflection one final time. The woman in the mirror smiles back, and this time, I recognize her perfectly. The Blackwood Industries boardroom feels like a courtroom, all mahogany panels and judgment. I sit beside Helen, watching Margaret hold court at the head of the table, her perfectly coiffed hair catching the afternoon light. Michael won't meet my eyes from his position at her right hand. The Singapore expansion represents a crucial step for our family's legacy, Margaret announces, sliding contracts across the polished surface. Michael's leadership role is essential too. Before we continue, Helen interrupts, her voice silk over steel. The board should review these documents. She produces a thick folder. Particularly the sections regarding unauthorized share transfers and potential SEC violations. The room temperature drops 10 degrees. Margaret's smile freezes. This isn't the time, Rebecca starts, but Helen cuts her off. It's exactly the time. Before anyone signs anything, they should know exactly what they're signing away. She turns to the board members. Or who they're signing it to. I stand, my hands steady as I distribute copies of the evidence. You'll find detailed records of every manipulated transaction, every buried audit report, and every threat made to ensure compliance. Cecilia. Michael's voice cracks. What are you doing? Protecting you. The words taste bitter. Someone has to. Margaret rises slowly, a queen whose throne is wobbling. These accusations are groundless. The board knows my dedication to this company. And to your children? I pull out my phone, playing the recording from her sitting room. Her voice fills the space. Let her try. Who do you think he'll believe? The woman who's given him everything, or the gold digger trying to tear him away from his family? The board members shift uncomfortably. One begins flipping through the documents with increased interest. You recorded me? Margaret's composure slips. In my own home? I learned from the best. I meet her gaze. Didn't you teach Rebecca to document everything? Including her attempts to sabotage my career? Rebecca pales. Mother, I can explain. Silence. Margaret's command cracks like a whip. She turns to Michael. Surely you won't let your wife destroy everything we've built? Michael stares at the contract before him, then at the evidence folder. His hand trembles slightly as he reaches for his pen. Sign it, Margaret urges. Prove where your loyalty lies. Don't. My voice is barely a whisper. Not for her. Not like this. The pen hovers. Time stretches like taffy. If you sign, I continue, you're choosing her control over our future. Over us. He's choosing family, Rebecca snaps. No. Helen's calm voice cuts through the tension. He's choosing fear. Just like you did, Rebecca. Just like everyone does when Margaret holds the reins. Michael looks up, really looks at me for the first time in days. Something shifts in his expression. Mother, he says quietly, what did you do to Cecilia's job? Margaret's mask slips further. Everything I did was to protect you. From what? The pen clatters to the table. From happiness? From independence? From love? From her. Margaret points at me, composure shattering. She'll take you away, change you, destroy everything I've sacrificed to build. The only thing being destroyed here is your control. I gather the contracts. The board has copies of everything now. Your choice, Margaret, step down gracefully or let them discover exactly how deep your manipulation runs. The silence is deafening. Board members whisper among themselves. Rebecca stares at her hands. Michael stands slowly, deliberately moving to my side. Margaret's eyes narrow to slits. You'll regret this. Both of you. No, I say softly. The only regret would be letting you win. I turn to leave, Michael's hand finding mine. At the door, I pause. Oh, and Margaret? The Singapore project is cancelled. Michael's talents are needed closer to home, in Seattle. Her scream of rage follows us down the hallway, but I don't look back. Some storms you walk away from, knowing the destruction they leave behind is their own punishment. Michael squeezes my hand. We have a lot to talk about. Yes, I agree. But not here. Not in her house. Not anymore. The sun hits our faces as we exit the building, and for the first time in months, I can breathe freely. Sometimes winning isn't about destroying your enemies, it's about freeing yourself from their power to hurt you. The annual Blackwood Charity Gala feels like a funeral where everyone's still pretending to smile. I adjust my emerald dress, chosen to match the family colors, one last attempt at belonging, and watch Margaret work the room. She hasn't spoken to me since the board meeting, but her eyes follow my every move. Michael squeezes my hand. We can leave if you want. And give her the satisfaction? I force a smile as another board member passes. Not a chance. Rebecca approaches, champagne sloshing dangerously in her glass. Mother wants everyone gathered for the announcements. Of course she does. I release Michael's hand. Go. Your mother's waiting. He hesitates, but duty wins out. Always does. I find Helen by the bar, her face grim. Something's wrong, she whispers. Margaret's been meeting with the other board members privately all week. Before I can respond, Margaret taps her glass. The room falls silent. Family, friends, distinguished guests, she begins, her voice carrying that perfect mix of authority and warmth I could never master. As you know, recent events have forced us to re-evaluate certain company positions. My stomach drops. Therefore, it gives me great pleasure to announce that Michael will be taking over as CEO of our European division, effective immediately. The room erupts in applause. Michael looks stunned. Mother, I never agreed. The board voted this morning, Margaret continues smoothly. Your flight leaves tomorrow night. Rebecca will handle the transition here. The room spins. Europe. Not Singapore, Europe. Further away, longer term, more permanent. You can't do this, I step forward, my voice shaking. The board already rejected. The board, Margaret's smile turns razor-sharp, reconsidered after reviewing certain historical documents. Particularly those regarding your father's involvement in the Mason scandal 10 years ago. The air leaves my lungs. My father's bankruptcy, the accusations of fraud, the years of rebuilding our family's reputation, how did she know? It would be unfortunate if those details became public, Margaret continues softly. Especially given your new position at the school board. Helen moves to intervene, but I wave her off. This is between me and Margaret now. So this is your revenge? My laugh sounds hollow even to me. Blackmail? This is protection. My son deserves better than a gold digger with a criminal's daughter. The room has gone deadly quiet. Even Rebecca looks uncomfortable. Michael, I turn to him, pleading. You can't let her. But his face tells me everything. The same conflict-avoidant expression, the same inability to stand against his mother's will. It's a good opportunity, he says weakly. Maybe you could join me later? Something breaks inside me. Not my heart, that shattered weeks ago. No, this is different. This is the last thread of hope snapping. No, I say quietly. I won't. Margaret's triumph radiates like a nuclear blast. Well, then. I believe that settles. Because I'm done. I turn to address the room. I'm done playing your games, Margaret. Done watching you manipulate everyone around you. Done pretending this is about family when it's really about control. Security, Margaret snaps her fingers. Please escort my daughter-in-law out. Don't bother. I pull off my wedding ring, the Blackwood family heirloom that never quite fit, and place it on the nearest table. I know the way out. I make it to the foyer before Michael catches up. Cecilia, wait. We can figure this out. No, we can't. I don't turn around. Because you'll never choose me over her. And I'll never be the wife who accepts that. Please. Goodbye, Michael. The night air hits my face as I push through the mansion's doors. Behind me, I hear Margaret's voice rising in victory, already spinning the story of how she saved her son from an unsuitable marriage. Let her have her win. Let her keep her control and her manipulations and her perfect family facade. Because tomorrow, the real war begins. And this time, I'm fighting for myself. I pull out my phone and dial Helen's number. It's time for Plan B. Sometimes you have to lose everything to remember who you really are. 3 days after I walk out of the gala, Helen's plan springs into action like a perfectly timed bomb. I stride into Blackwood Industries' emergency board meeting, my heels clicking against marble, every step echoing with purpose. Margaret's face turns ashen when she sees me. This is a closed meeting, she snaps. Not anymore. I drop a thick folder onto the conference table. The SEC might disagree, given what's in here. Rebecca jumps up. You can't just. Sit down, Helen commands from the doorway. All of you need to hear this. Michael enters last, looking between his mother and me with dawning comprehension. What's going on? Show them, Helen nods. I open the folder, spreading out documents like playing cards. Financial records. Real ones, not the doctored versions Margaret's been showing the board. 10 years of systematic fraud, all carefully hidden behind shell companies and offshore accounts. Lies, Margaret hisses, but her hands shake as she reaches for the papers. Truth, I correct. Your mistake was threatening my father. It made me curious about what else you might be hiding. Helen's been collecting evidence for years, waiting for someone brave enough to use it. The board members murmur, passing documents between them. Margaret's carefully constructed world begins to crumble. You ungrateful little. Careful, mother, I say softly. The walls have ears. Just like your sitting room, your office, your private phone line. She lunges for her phone, but Helen's faster. Looking for this? She holds up Margaret's cell. Such interesting conversations you've had lately. Especially about those offshore transfers. Michael, Margaret turns to her last defense. You can't let them destroy everything we've built. We? Michael's voice cracks. Or you? How long have you been stealing from the company? From me? Everything I did was for you. No. He steps away from her reaching hand. Everything you did was for control. And I let you have it because it was easier than fighting. But I'm done being your puppet. Rebecca stands suddenly. Mother, tell them about the Thompson account. Show them you had authorization. Sit down, Rebecca, Margaret commands, but her voice has lost its power. No. Rebecca's face crumples. I forged those documents for you. I lied to the auditors. I did everything you asked, and you're still going to let me take the fall, aren't you? The room erupts in chaos. Board members shouting, Rebecca crying, Margaret trying to maintain order. But her kingdom is falling, one revelation at a time. Enough! My voice cuts through the noise. Here's what happens next. Margaret steps down immediately. All stolen funds are returned. The board implements new oversight measures. Or. Margaret's eyes narrow. Or these documents go public. Every scheme, every manipulation, every crime exposed. Your choice. You would destroy this company just for revenge? No. I meet her gaze steadily. I would save it from you. That's the difference between us, Margaret. You destroy what you claim to love. I protect what matters, even if it costs me everything. Michael moves to my side, his shoulder brushing mine. Sign the resignation, Mother. It's over. Margaret looks around the room, seeing only hostile faces. Even Rebecca won't meet her eyes. Her empire crumbles in real time. Fine. She picks up a pen with trembling fingers. You win. No one wins here, I say quietly. But maybe now everyone can heal. As Margaret signs away her power, I feel nothing but emptiness. This victory tastes like ashes, but sometimes burning it all down is the only way to build something new. Michael touches my arm. Stay. Please. We can start over. I look at him, really look at him, and see both the man I loved and the boy still seeking his mother's approval. Some things can't be fixed, Michael. But they can be finished. I turn to leave, but Margaret's broken voice stops me. I was protecting my family. No, I say without turning back. You were protecting your fear. There's a difference. The door closes behind me with a final click, leaving behind the ruins of an empire and the possibility of something better rising from its ashes. The Seattle rain feels different from the carefully manicured precipitation that waters the Blackwood Estate's gardens. Here, it's wild and honest, much like the life I'm building from the wreckage of my marriage. I unlock the door to my new consulting firm, Educational Futures, and find Helen already inside, reviewing blueprints for our expansion. The board approved your proposal, she says without looking up. Full funding for the Inner City Education Initiative. And Margaret? Still trying to maintain control from her house arrest. Rebecca's testimony sealed her fate. Helen finally meets my eyes. Michael asked about you again. Of course he did. The divorce papers sit unsigned on my desk, his signature line blank after 3 attempts to deliver them. He's different now, Helen continues. Standing up to what's left of Margaret's influence. Leading the company's rehabilitation. Good for him. I mean it, mostly. But some bridges can't be unburned. A knock interrupts us. Rebecca stands in the doorway, looking smaller without her designer armor. Your secretary said I could come up. Rebecca. I keep my voice neutral. This is unexpected. I'm not staying. She clutches her purse like a shield. I just needed to say something. I wait, remembering a time when her silence was a weapon. Now it feels like surrender. You were right, she says finally. About Mother. About everything. I spent so long trying to be what she wanted that I forgot who I was. And now? Now I'm trying to remember. She pulls out an envelope. These are my shares in the company. I want you to use them for your education program. Rebecca. Please. Let me do one right thing in all this mess. I take the envelope, feeling the weight of transformation in my hands. What will you do? Start over. Somewhere new. A ghost of her old smile appears. Maybe even somewhere where it rains. After she leaves, Helen pours us both coffee. You know, revenge doesn't usually end with redemption. This wasn't about revenge. I watch Seattle's skyline emerge from the morning mist. Not really. It was about breaking free. All of us. My phone buzzes, Michael's daily message. But today's is different, I signed the papers. They're with your lawyer. I hope you find what you're looking for. Something shifts in my chest, not quite peace, but closer than I've felt in months. I'm leaving too, Helen announces suddenly. The board can handle the transition without me. There's a literary festival in Paris I've always wanted to attend. Running away? No. She smiles. Running toward something. Isn't that what you taught us all? The rain intensifies, washing the windows clean. Below, Rebecca's car pulls away from the curb, heading toward whatever future she's chosen. Somewhere across the city, Michael sits in his office, finally standing on his own. And in her monitored mansion, Margaret faces the consequences of her choices. My phone buzzes again. A text from my father, proud of you, kid. Always have been. I touch the window, feeling Seattle's pulse through the glass. This city doesn't care about family names or inherited power. It only asks what you're building next. You know what the strangest part is? I tell Helen. I thought taking Margaret down would feel like victory. But it just feels like freedom, she finishes. Messy, complicated freedom. I nod, thinking of all the perfectly arranged gardens and carefully controlled lives I've left behind. Here, things grow wild and true, reaching for light through the rain. So, Helen raises her coffee cup. What's next? I look at my reflection in the window, no longer the outsider trying to fit into someone else's world, but something entirely new. Something real. Everything, I answer. Everything's next. The rain continues falling, washing away the last traces of the woman who once tried to please the Blackwoods. Let Margaret keep her mansion and her memories. I'll take the wild unknown any day. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's becoming exactly who you were meant to be, without their permission or approval. I pick up my phone and delete Michael's number. It's time to write my own story.
The phone rings exactly as Caleb dumps his bowl of cereal across the kitchen table. Milk cascades onto my freshly ironed blouse, and I bite back a curse while fumbling for my cell. The number isn't familiar, but I've been waiting for this call. Is this Sutton Reynolds? Yes, speaking. I'm already dabbing at my blouse with a paper towel, watching the milk seep deeper into the fabric. This is Margaret from Riverside Technologies. We'd like to offer you the position of Senior Project Manager. My hand freezes mid-dab. The salary she quotes makes my knees weak. It's double what I'm making now. Double. The kind of money that could pull us out of this paycheck-to-paycheck existence. Maybe even let us move out of this cramped rental. There's just one detail, Margaret continues. The position requires regular travel between our 3 offices. You'll need reliable transportation. Our ancient Honda with its check engine light permanently illuminated flashes through my mind. The same car that left us stranded 3 times last month. Of course, I lie smoothly. That won't be a problem. After hanging up, I stare at Caleb, who's now finger painting with spilled milk. Baby, mommy just got some really good news. Better than pancakes? He looks up hopefully. Way better than pancakes. I scoop him up, milk sticky hands and all, and spin him around. His giggle is pure sunshine. Brandon walks in, still in his ratty weekend sweats. What's all the excitement about? I got the job. I set Caleb down. The riverside position. It's happening. His face lights up, then dims slightly. That's amazing, but don't they need you to travel? In our car. We'll figure it out. We can use the anniversary trip money. Elaine's anniversary trip? Brandon's expression shifts. Honey, you know how much mom's been looking forward to that. And there it is. The shadow of my mother-in-law, falling across every major decision we make. Elaine, with her guilt-laden sighs and passive-aggressive suggestions about how we should live our lives. Elaine, who's been planning her lavish anniversary celebration for months, expecting us to foot a significant portion of the bill. Brandon, this is our future we're talking about. A real chance to get ahead. I know, but he runs a hand through his hair. Maybe we can find another way. Mom's done so much for us. The doorbell chimes, right on cue. Speaking of the devil. Grandma. Caleb races to the door before I can stop him. Elaine sweeps in, designer handbag swinging, perfectly coiffed as always. There's my precious boy. She scoops up Caleb, then eyes my milk-stained blouse with barely concealed disdain. Oh dear Sutton. Having a rough morning. Actually, I just got some wonderful news. I force a smile. I was offered that job I interviewed for. The one that requires all that traveling? Her lips purse. But who will look after Caleb? You know how important stability is for children his age. We'll manage, I say firmly. In fact, we're thinking of using the anniversary trip money to buy a reliable car instead. The temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Elaine sets Caleb down slowly, her face a mask of hurt that doesn't quite reach her eyes. I see. She smooths her expensive blazer. Well, I suppose some people prioritize career over family. Though I always hoped you'd make different choices than your own mother did, Sutton. The barb hits its mark with surgical precision. My hands clench into fists beneath the kitchen counter. Brandon shifts uncomfortably, caught between wife and mother, as usual. Mom, we can discuss this later, he attempts. But I've had enough of later. Enough of tiptoeing around Elaine's feelings while she tramples over mine. Something inside me hardens, crystallizes. No, I say quietly. We'll discuss it now. 3 days after the kitchen confrontation, I find Elaine sitting cross-legged on our living room floor with Caleb, surrounded by photo albums I've never seen before. And here's your daddy when he was your age, she coos, pointing to a faded photograph. Notice how neat his room is? Unlike what? I interrupt, setting down my grocery bags harder than necessary. Elaine doesn't flinch. Oh, Sutton. I was just showing Caleb some family history. Something he should know about, don't you think? The way she emphasizes family makes my skin crawl. I notice Caleb's toys have been meticulously arranged on his shelf, not how I left them this morning. Mommy, Grandma says you're making Daddy sad. Caleb pipes up, innocent eyes wide. Is that true? The room goes still. I feel heat rising in my chest, but keep my voice steady. No, baby. That's not true at all. Why don't you go play in your room while I talk to Grandma? Once he's gone, I turn to Elaine. How dare you? I'm simply concerned. She closes the album with careful precision. Brandon's been so stressed lately. The way he picks at his food, barely sleeps. Just like when his father left. The comparison lands like a slap. This is nothing like that. I'm trying to improve our lives. By destroying what we've built? She stands, smoothing her expensive slacks. First the anniversary trip, now this new job taking you away from your family. It's like watching history repeat itself. What's that supposed to mean? Well, dear, we both know how your mother chose her career over family. Though I suppose some patterns are hard to break. My fingers curl into fists. You had no right to come here without asking. And you absolutely have no right to fill my son's head with. The front door opens. Brandon walks in, stopping short at the tension in the room. Mom? What are you doing here? Just leaving, darling. Elaine gathers her purse, but pauses to touch Brandon's cheek. You look tired. Are you eating enough? I watch my husband lean into her touch, just slightly. Something twists in my stomach. After she leaves, Brandon sighs. What happened? Your mother happened. She was here poisoning our son against me. Come on, Sutton. She's just worried. About what? That I might actually succeed? That we might not need her money anymore. That's not fair. He runs a hand through his hair. She's helped us through some rough times, and she never lets us forget it. I lower my voice, conscious of Caleb upstairs. She's using our son to manipulate us, Brandon. Can't you see that? He moves to the kitchen, avoiding my eyes. Maybe if we compromise on the anniversary trip. This isn't about the trip anymore. I follow him. It's about your mother thinking she can control our lives because she's helped us financially. She's family, Sutton. What do you want me to do? I want you to choose us. Your wife and son. Not your mother's guilt trips and manipulation. Brandon starts making coffee, his movements jerky. It's not that simple. Actually, it is. I grab my keys. I'm going to look at cars tomorrow. With or without your support. Sutton. And one more thing. Your mother doesn't come here unless we're both home. No more surprise visits. He sets down the coffee pot too hard, liquid sloshing. You're acting like she's some kind of threat. Isn't she? I meet his gaze. When was the last time you made a decision without wondering what she'd think? The silence stretches between us. Upstairs, I hear Caleb humming to himself, oblivious to the fractures forming beneath our feet. I need some air, Brandon finally says, heading for the door. Running to your mother's? He stops, hand on the doorknob. Maybe I am. At least she doesn't make me choose sides. The door closes behind him with a quiet click that echoes like a gunshot. I stand in our kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of Elaine's visit. Reorganized cabinets, folded dish towels. All the little ways she marks her territory. My phone buzzes. A text from the dealership confirming tomorrow's appointment. I stare at it, thinking about choices and consequences, about the fine line between revenge and self-preservation. Upstairs, Caleb calls out, Mommy? Can we look at more pictures? I delete the text. Some battles need to be fought differently. The supermarket feels like neutral territory until I spot Martha examining tomatoes 2 aisles over. I duck behind a display of cereal boxes, but it's too late. She's already waving, walking over with that concerned smile I've grown to hate. Sutton, dear. I've been meaning to call you. Of course she has. Martha, Elaine's eternal echo chamber. I force a smile. Hello, Martha. Such a shame about the tension lately. She lowers her voice conspiratorially. Elaine's been beside herself, barely sleeping. Really? I examine a box of cornflakes with unnecessary intensity. That must be why she had enough energy to reorganize my entire kitchen yesterday. Martha's smile tightens. She means well. We're all just worried about Caleb with all these changes you're planning. What changes would those be, exactly? Well, she glances around, then leans closer. The new job, moving away from family support, following in your mother's. Footsteps. The cereal box crumples slightly in my grip. Who said anything about moving away? Oh. Martha's hand flies to her mouth. I just assumed with the new position. Elaine mentioned you'd been looking at houses in the next county. The lie hits me like a physical blow. I haven't looked at a single house. Haven't even considered moving. But here's Elaine, spinning her web of fabrications, turning family members against me one carefully crafted story at a time. Excuse me, I manage, abandoning my shopping cart. I find myself in my car, hands shaking as I dial Brandon's number. Straight to voicemail. Again. He's been avoiding my calls since our fight, probably holed up at his mother's house, letting her poison him with more lies. A text comes through, from my new boss. Looking forward to having you on board Monday. Car situation sorted. I start the engine, my decision crystallizing. The dealership is only 15 minutes away. I've got enough in my personal savings for a down payment, money I've been squirreling away in secret. My escape fund from years of financial dependence on Elaine's generosity. The dealership's lot is quiet when I arrive. I'm examining a sensible used sedan when I hear familiar voices around the corner. She's not thinking clearly, Brandon. Remember what happened with her mother? History repeating itself. I freeze. Elaine's voice, here of all places. I edge closer, staying hidden behind a row of cars. Mom, I know you're worried, but the house she looked at is 40 minutes away. 40 minutes from your job, from Caleb's school, from family. Just like her mother, always running away when things get difficult. What house? Brandon sounds confused. Sutton hasn't said anything about moving. Because she knows you'd object. I saw the realtor's card in her purse when I was tidying up. Always sneaking around that one. Just like, stop. Brandon's voice hardens. Just stop. I step out from behind the cars, slow clapping. They both whirl around. Bravo, Elaine. Really stellar performance. My voice sounds strange in my ears, calm despite the rage burning through me. Tell me, did you plant that realtor's card yourself, or did you just make it up completely? Elaine recovers quickly, her face arranging itself into concerned disappointment. Sutton, dear, we're only trying to help. By following me? By lying to my husband? By spreading rumors about me to the entire family? Brandon looks between us, realization dawning. Mom, what's going on? Your wife is destroying this family. Elaine snaps, mask finally cracking. Someone had to do something before. Before what? I step closer. Before I become financially independent? Before I stop needing your help? Before I can make decisions without your approval? Sutton, Brandon starts. No. I turn to him. You need to choose right now. Are you going to keep enabling this, or are you going to stand with your wife? The silence stretches. A salesman approaches, senses the tension, and quickly retreats. I should go, Elaine says finally, gathering her dignity around her like armor. Call me when she's being reasonable again, Brandon. She walks away, heels clicking on pavement. Brandon watches her go, then turns to me with tired eyes. We need to talk, he says. Yes, I agree, thinking of Martha in the supermarket, of Caleb's confused questions, of years of subtle manipulation. We really do. The email from Caleb's soccer coach arrives during my lunch break. Due to unexpected withdrawal of sponsorship, the junior league program will be suspended indefinitely. My screen blurs. Elaine's fingerprints are all over this. She's been the program's primary donor for years. I close my laptop just as Brandon walks into my home office, holding a stack of papers. Did you see the email? His voice is tight. She works fast, I'll give her that. I stand up, needing to move. How many other programs has she pulled funding from? He spreads the papers across my desk. Caleb's art classes. The reading program. The summer camp deposit. All canceled, all refunded. It's not just about us anymore, Brandon says. The soccer program supported 20 kids from low-income families. That's the point. Maximum collateral damage for maximum guilt. I laugh, but it sounds hollow. Your mother's quite the strategist. We need to talk to her. No, what we need is independence. I grab my car keys. I'm picking up Caleb early. Coming. He hesitates. Mom invited us for dinner. To talk things through. Of course she did. I turn to face him. And if we go, she'll apologize tearfully, offer to reinstate everything with conditions. Same pattern, different day. She's still his grandmother. Is she? Because right now she's using him as a weapon. The drive to Caleb's school is silent. When we arrive, we find him sitting with his teacher, Mrs. Chen, who waves us into the classroom with unusual urgency. I'm glad you're both here, she says, after Caleb goes to pack his bag. I'm concerned about some things Caleb's been saying. My stomach drops. What things? He mentioned that his grandmother told him you're planning to take him away from his father. Mrs. Chen's eyes are gentle but concerned. He's been drawing some troubling pictures. She slides a paper across her desk. The crayon drawing shows 3 figures, one blue, Brandon, one yellow, Caleb, and one red, me, walking in different directions. At the edge, a larger figure in black, Elaine, watches. He said his grandmother helps him understand why mommy wants to leave, Mrs. Chin continues. I thought you should know. Brandon's hands clench the edge of the tiny desk he's perched on. I watch his knuckles turn white. Thank you, I manage. We'll handle this. In the car, Caleb chatters about his day, oblivious to the tension. Brandon stares straight ahead, driving mechanically. I check my phone, 3 missed calls from Elaine. Let's get ice cream, Caleb suggests. Not today, buddy, Brandon says, making an unexpected turn. We need to stop somewhere first. I recognize the route to Elaine's house. Brandon. No more proxy wars through our son. His voice is different, harder than I've ever heard it. This ends today. We pull into Elaine's driveway. Through the window, I see her watering her precious roses, Martha beside her. They look up at our arrival, and something in Elaine's expression shifts. Triumph, maybe, thinking we've come to surrender. Grandma. Caleb unbuckles his seatbelt. Wait, Brandon says. He turns to our son with a gentleness that makes my throat tight. Remember how we talked about telling the truth? Even when it's hard. Caleb nods solemnly. We need to have a family talk about that right now. About truth and lies, and how they can hurt people we love. I watch Elaine approach the car, her perfect smile in place. But there's something else in her eyes now, fear, maybe seeing Brandon's expression. Ready? Brandon asks me. I think of the crayon drawing, of soccer programs canceled, of whispered poison in our son's ear, of years of subtle manipulation disguised as love. My hand finds Brandon's across the console. Ready. Caleb looks between us, sensing something important is happening. Outside, Elaine reaches for the car door, but Brandon hits the lock button. Just for a moment, just long enough to make it clear, this time we're in control of how this conversation starts. The anniversary party invitation sits on our counter like a loaded gun. Cream-colored paper, gold embossing, pure Elaine. I trace the letters with my finger while Brandon paces behind me. We have to go, he says. The whole family will be there. That's exactly why she's doing this. I turn the invitation over. 2 weeks after she manipulated our son, canceled his activities, and now she wants to play happy families? Maybe it's an olive branch. The doorbell rings. Caleb races to answer it before we can stop him. Martha stands there, holding a casserole dish. Just thought you could use a home-cooked meal, she says, gliding past me. And to make sure you received the invitation. Elaine's been so worried you might not come. I catch Brandon's eye. This is how it always starts. The subtle pressure, the guilt, the family emissaries. Actually, I say, we were just discussing. Oh, you must come. Martha sets down the dish. Elaine's planned such a lovely surprise. She's even arranged for that trip she promised. Brandon stiffens. What trip? The anniversary trip, of course. She's been so secretive about it, but I happened to see the bookings. Very generous of her, considering everything. My hands shake as I pour coffee. Elaine hasn't booked anything she can't have. Not after withdrawing support for Caleb's activities. Not after our confrontation. Caleb, honey, I call out. Go play upstairs for a bit. Once he's gone, I face Martha. There is no trip, is there? I saw the documents myself. Martha sips her coffee primly. First-class tickets. Luxury resort. Though I suppose if you're not interested. Stop. Brandon's voice cuts through the room. Just stop. Mom's manipulating everyone again, isn't she? Martha's cup clatters against its saucer. I don't know what you mean. The trip that doesn't exist. The rumors about Sutton. Using Caleb against us. All of it. Your mother only wants what's best. We'll be at the party. I interrupt, surprising everyone, including myself. All 3 of us. After Martha leaves, Brandon stares at me. What are you planning? Nothing. I start clearing dishes. Just tired of letting her control the narrative. The night of the party arrives too quickly. Elaine's house glows with fairy lights, packed with relatives who've flown in for the occasion. She greets us at the door, resplendent in designer silk. My darlings. She hugs Caleb tight, then whispers in my ear, so glad you made the right choice. I smile, remembering the USB drive in my purse. The one containing recordings of every conversation where she admitted to manipulating us, including her confession about the fake trip. The one I plan to play during her speech. The evening unfolds like a carefully choreographed dance. Elaine holds court, accepting congratulations, while subtly dropping hints about the surprise trip she's planned. I watch relatives' faces light up with anticipation, see them glance at me with judgment when they think I'm not looking. Finally, Elaine taps her glass for attention. Before I announce our surprise, I want to thank everyone for being here. Family is everything to me, especially in difficult times. Her eyes find mine across the room. Sometimes we face challenges, misunderstandings, but love prevails. Which is why my hand touches my purse. One move and I could expose everything. The lies, the manipulation, the psychological warfare waged through our child. But then I see Caleb, watching his grandmother with pure adoration. Brandon, tension visible in every line of his body. The collateral damage would be catastrophic. Elaine continues, which is why I'm announcing that instead of a trip, I'm establishing a trust fund for Caleb's education. The room erupts in applause. She's outmaneuvered me again, turning potential revenge into a poison pill. If I expose her now, I'm the ungrateful daughter-in-law destroying a grandmother's generous gesture. Brandon grips my hand under the table. We don't have to accept it. No, I say, watching Elaine bask in the family's approval. We don't. I stand up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. The room goes quiet. Elaine's smile freezes as I reach for my purse. Sometimes the best revenge isn't exposure, it's freedom. The silence in Elaine's study feels like a physical weight. The party guests have gone home, leaving behind empty champagne flutes and whispered judgments. Brandon stands by the window, while Caleb sleeps on the leather sofa, exhausted from the evening's drama. Well, Elaine says, perfectly composed despite everything. I assume you have something to say about my generous offer. I pull out the USB drive, place it on her mahogany desk. Actually, I have something to play. Her eyes narrow slightly. What is this? Everything. I press play on my phone connected to the drive. Her voice fills the room, crystal clear. Of course I made up the trip. Sometimes you need to create pressure to keep a family together. Brandon's sharp intake of breath cuts through the recording. I play another. Elaine instructing Martha about which rumors to spread, which neighbors to influence. Turn it off. Elaine's voice trembles slightly. There's more. I scroll through the files. Should we listen to you coaching Caleb about mommy wanting to leave? Or maybe your conversation about canceling his activities? I did what was necessary. She stands, smoothing her silk dress. Everything I've done has been for this family. No. Brandon moves from the window. Everything you've done has been for control. Brandon, darling. Don't. He holds up a hand. Just don't, Mom. Elaine's facade cracks, just slightly. You don't understand. When your father left, this isn't about Dad. Brandon's voice rises, and Caleb stirs on the sofa. This is about you manipulating everyone around you, including my son. I was protecting him. Elaine's composure shatters. From her. Just like her mother, always ready to abandon family for ambition. I saw the signs. The signs you invented? I stand up. The moving plans you made up? The lies you told everyone. They weren't lies. She grabs a folder from her desk, throws it open. I had proof. The realtor calls. The house listings. Brandon picks up the papers, examines them. These are fake. Mom, you forged these. Something shifts in Elaine's eyes, something desperate and dangerous. Martha, she calls out sharply. Martha appears in the doorway, holding an envelope. I'm sorry, Elaine. I can't do this anymore. What's in the envelope? I ask. The real estate listings. Martha's hands shake. The ones Elaine asked me to create, to make it look like Sutton was planning to leave. The room spins slightly. All this time, the depth of Elaine's manipulation went deeper than we imagined. Give me that. Elaine lunges for the envelope, but Martha steps back. No. Martha's voice strengthens. This has to stop. Elaine turns to Brandon, tears welling. Everything I did was to protect you, to keep our family together. Without me, without my help, we'll manage. Brandon's voice is ice. But you need help, Mom. Professional help. How dare you? She whirls on me. This is your doing. Turning my own son against me. Well, fine. You want independence? Let's see how you manage without my support. The trust fund, Caleb's school fees, everything gone. Mom. No, Brandon. They want freedom? Let them have it. But remember who was there for every scraped knee, every school payment, every crisis. Stop. Caleb's small voice cuts through the tension. He's sitting up on the sofa, eyes wide and frightened. Please stop fighting. The silence that follows is deafening. I move to comfort him, but he shrinks away from me, from all of us. I want to go home, he whispers. Elaine steps toward him. Sweetheart. Don't. Brandon picks up our son. Just don't, Mom. We're leaving. As we walk out, Elaine calls after us, you'll be back. You'll see I was right. You always come back. In the car, Caleb's quiet sobs fill the silence. Brandon drives mechanically, knuckles white on the steering wheel. I stare at the USB drive in my hand, wondering if revenge was worth the cost of our son's innocence. My phone buzzes, a text from my new boss. Looking forward to Monday. Car situation sorted. I close my eyes, feeling the weight of everything we've just lost, everything we still stand to lose. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing. The family meeting wasn't my idea. Martha called it, inviting everyone to her house 3 days after the anniversary party disaster. I stand in her kitchen now, watching relatives filter in, their faces a mix of concern and curiosity. They need to know, Martha says, clutching a manila envelope. All of it. Brandon squeezes my hand as Elaine arrives last, head high, perfect as always, until she sees Martha's envelope. Her step falters just slightly. What's this about? She demands. Martha's hands shake as she opens the envelope. I've been keeping records. Receipts. Letters. Recordings. Everything you asked me to help you with over the years. The room goes still. Elaine's laugh sounds brittle. Martha, dear, you're being dramatic. Am I? Martha pulls out a stack of papers. The fake real estate listings were just the start. Should we discuss the anonymous letters you sent to Sutton's potential employers? Or the calls to Caleb's school about her supposed neglect? Gasps ripple through the room. I feel my knees weaken. I'd suspected, but the scope of it. You're lying, Elaine snaps, but her perfect mask is cracking. The trust fund announcement? Martha continues. There never was one. You were going to announce its cancellation today. Blame Sutton for forcing your hand. Brandon steps forward. Mom, everything I did was for this family. Elaine's voice rises. You were all too blind to see the danger. Just like with your father, Brandon. Remember how he left? How he chose his new life over us. I saw the same signs in her. No. Martha's voice strengthens. You created those signs. Just like you did with Dad. The room goes silent. Elaine's face drains of color. What? Brandon whispers. Martha pulls out one final document, yellowed with age. Dad didn't leave us for another woman, Elaine. You drove him away. Just like you're trying to do with Sutton. Elaine lunges for the letter, but Martha holds firm. Enough. I step forward, surprising everyone. This ends now. You don't understand, Elaine pleads. I was protecting. No. My voice is steady. You were controlling. There's a difference. I gave you everything. She whirls on Brandon. Everything. And this is how you repay me. By finding the truth? Brandon's voice cracks. By finally seeing what you've done to all of us? A sound from the doorway makes us turn. Caleb stands there, clutching his backpack, the one we'd packed for his cousin to watch him during the meeting. Grandma. His voice is small. Did you tell lies about Mommy? The moment hangs, crystalline and fragile. Elaine takes a step toward him, but Brandon moves first. Yes, buddy, he says gently. Grandma told lies. But that doesn't mean she doesn't love you. Then why? Caleb's question cuts through all the adult complexity to the heart of things. Elaine crumples into a chair, her perfect facade finally shattering completely. Because I was afraid, she whispers. So afraid of being alone. The irony hits like a physical blow. In trying to keep everyone close, she's pushed them all away. Martha moves to her sister's side, places a hand on her shoulder. It's time to get help, Elaine. Real help. I watch my mother-in-law, this woman who's caused so much pain, who's also clearly in pain herself, and feel something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. The trust fund, the activities, the financial support, I say quietly. Keep them. We don't need them anymore. Brandon nods. What we need is boundaries. And time. And therapy, Martha adds firmly. Elaine looks up, tears tracking through her perfect makeup. For the first time, I see her clearly, not as an antagonist to be defeated, but as a wounded person who wounded others. I don't know how to be different, she whispers. That's okay, I surprise myself by saying. You can learn. We all can. Caleb approaches cautiously, takes his grandmother's hand. In that simple gesture, I see both the cost of revenge and the possibility of healing. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemy, but in choosing to break the cycle of hurt. The brochure for the wellness retreat sits between us on Martha's kitchen table. Elaine stares at it like it might bite. It's not punishment, Martha says gently. Think of it as a reset. I watch Elaine's perfectly manicured fingers trace the retreat's name. 3 weeks of therapy, meditation, and family counseling, all arranged by Martha, who's finally stepping out of her sister's shadow. And after, Elaine's voice is smaller than I've ever heard it. After depends on you, Brandon says. He's standing by the window where our new used car is parked outside, bought with my first paycheck from the new job. Not fancy, but ours. Caleb asked about you yesterday, I say, surprising everyone, including myself. He wants to know if you'll be at his soccer game next month. Elaine's head snaps up. But I thought, after everything. Limited contact, Brandon clarifies. Supervised visits. Small steps. Why? Elaine's question is directed at me. After everything I did, why offer even that much? I think about the letter I found in my mailbox this morning, from my own mother, responding to the one I sent her last week. The first contact in 15 years. Some cycles need to be broken. Because revenge wasn't the answer, I say. I almost became what I was fighting against. Martha pulls out one final document, a contract of sorts. Professional therapy requirements, communication boundaries, consequences clearly outlined. No more financial manipulation, no unsupervised time with Caleb, no surprise visits. It's non-negotiable, Brandon says as Elaine reads. She nods slowly, then does something I've never seen before. She takes off her perfect pearl necklace, the one she always wears like armor. I spoke to your father, she tells Brandon. After everything came out. He's willing to tell you his side of the story, if you want to hear it. Brandon's sharp intake of breath is the only sound in the room. I reach for his hand, find it trembling slightly. One thing at a time, he manages. Elaine signs the contract without further comment. As Martha helps her pack for the retreat, I step outside, needing air. The morning is crisp, full of possibility. Brandon joins me, wrapping his arms around my waist from behind. You okay? Are any of us? He chuckles softly. Fair point. Inside, we hear Caleb's voice. He's arrived with his aunt, who's been watching him. He's showing Elaine his new soccer cleats, bought with money we earned ourselves. Her response is muted, careful, she's trying. It's strange, I say. I wanted revenge so badly. Wanted to expose everything, make her hurt like we hurt. But now I just want peace. Real peace, not the fake kind we had before. The front door opens. Elaine steps out, suitcase in hand. She looks smaller somehow, without her usual perfect facade. Sutton, she calls softly. That job of yours. The one that started all this. Are you good at it? Yes, I say simply. I am. She nods, something like respect flickering across her face. Good? That's good. As Martha drives her away, Caleb slips his small hand into mine. Is Grandma sick? Not exactly, Brandon answers. She's learning to be better. Like when I had to learn not to hit Tommy at school? I laughed to spite myself. Something like that. Inside, I find a USB drive with all the recordings. My planned revenge, my evidence, my ammunition. I turn it over in my hands while Brandon makes coffee and Caleb chatters about soccer. Keep it or destroy it? Brandon asks, watching me. I think about cycles, about choices, about the fine line between justice and vengeance, about my mother's letter, waiting to be read, about Elaine's pearl necklace, left behind on Martha's table like a surrender flag. Neither, I decide, tucking it away in a drawer. Just in case. But hopefully we'll never need it. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well on your own terms. And sometimes healing comes not from winning the battle, but from choosing which battles are worth fighting at all.